the Lord of Civilization to the stars. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. These are all my family, but these things are actually the secrets of the Norsemen. After all, the people who were robbed only knew that the people who robbed them had their faces covered or some physical symbols. If they had the ability to tell who each person was, they would not be robbed. A ruthless person like Ulfric, who dared to take a dragon-head ship to break through the defense line of Britannia, the country of knights, and snatched the Holy Grail from the cathedral, is naturally a legend among the Norsemen. The living places are also close to the Chaos Wasteland, so such ruthless people and phenomena can appear. The so-called Norsemen found by the players are mostly losers who lost their identities in the struggle of the chiefs and gradually moved towards the border areas. They do not have the protection of the dark gods, and sooner or later they will return to the civilized social area, or they will return to the snowfield again and use their abilities to prove that they are still the darlings of the dark gods. This is a place of exile for Norska. It is a place where uncles don't love and grandmas don't love. In other words, it is exactly the same as the positioning of the players. But if you can go the player route, to be honest, you can use the player channel as a local lord to sell some specialties. Watching the player guild leader describe their bright future with great emotion, Leon did not look down on them or be arrogant, but while moving his body, he calmly thought about the opportunities here. To be honest, looking at the virtue of Leon's current territory, in the eyes of normal people in the so-called civilized world, if not a hero, at least he can be said to be a chaos god's chosen. He doesn't look like a good person. The more radical ones will directly chant the name of God to exchange with them. If those knights wait until the Vientiane labyrinth is built before coming, they will have to fight no matter what, especially when the supreme wisdom begins to take effect. Some blue symbols will appear on the people under Leon's command. Although it can be hidden, the smell of magic cannot deceive people. In this case, it is a bit unlikely to expect the territory to trade and survive normally. It is not impossible to start with other crooked creatures in the Chaos Wasteland. But the demon army must be sacrificed, and technology is still very important. And the twisted tribes that believe in those wilderness gods will most likely be sent to the Stonehenge to wash away their magic first and then change their gates as population. In other words, in the grand strategy of the Land of Descendants, the Chaos Wasteland, the rear base, is either killed or collected, and there is no other option. From this point of view, it seems that there is indeed no place to trade. But it is an objective fact that the territory is not rich in supplies. The area must be expanded. A total of more than 1,000 knights and serfs will greatly slow down the progress of the experimental area production, so there must be a certain trade route to ensure the development of the internal cycle. And the players are indeed a good object to be used as a fuse. Their understanding of this world is vague, and the truth of the dark gods is also vague. The understanding of the seal of the God of Wisdom is very shallow, which can be used to sell magic crystals and some production garbage. As long as we send these garbage away and exchange them for some tools and props necessary for production and life, we can greatly speed up the construction of the Land of Descendants again. At that time, we can directly pull up the knights to rush into the Chaos Wasteland and take down the prince's palace and other places inside first. And we have also received a message. The owner of the post said, in the distant Chaos Wasteland, a strange war seems to be taking place. A huge wound appeared in the distance. I judge that this place will definitely become a trade hub, or a useful trade node. We may not be able to become the most powerful master here, but as long as we settle down in this area and build our own city-state, then players all over the world will have a beacon and a signal. You are not alone, you can always trust us. From beginning to end, our first guild will fight for the welfare of the players. We will always share all the information enthusiastically to prove that our intentions are not in vain. So we sincerely invite players from all walks of life to gather together, and use everything we have. We will eventually build a country that belongs to us. Except for the old world, There are no other plans for other major regions because the political situation is relatively stable, and the routes and road signs are difficult to explore. But we believe that as long as we have the successful cases of the old world, we may also be able to open up channels of communication between Erathia and Demon Island, whether it is Northrend, or the Land of Misty Land, or even the legendary Sky Islands and Lost Fairy Forest. Our players' traces are there. This is a great cause that only we can do. Join us. Let us create this world with our own hands. But if you go there, it is easy to be rushed by the World Destruction War Gang. Looking at the passionate text, Leon thought calmly, it is better to say that every time the World Destruction War Gang goes down, they recruit soldiers from there to go to the old world. If the players are stuck in this place, the civilized world will laugh to death. A large anti-chaos demon fortress that is even closer to the cursed city of Bragg. The players don't have much else, but there are many of them. If a large player fortress is to be built locally, the permanent population must be at least hundreds of thousands. It is comparable to a super large city in the old world. If the portal mechanism brought by the Norscans and their own wisdom path is properly utilized, there may be great potential in the future. After all, that is a market of millions of people. Even if it is operated properly, these people can be treated as population and soldiers. He loves his people equally. If these people can really become his people, then why can't he treat them better? If the demons can succeed, Leon doesn't even mind being with the demons. It's a pity that demons are only suitable for killing and sacrifice. They are more like some complex natural phenomena, and it's hard to say that they are individuals. After confirming some landmarks and locations marked by the player's paid stickers, Leon finished his exercise, lay on the bed and closed his eyes. His consciousness was once again immersed in the gentle ocean, and then woke up in the wetness. Leon realized the problem just after opening his eyes. He saw a monster as big as a hill, with tumors all over its body and dozens of twisted horns. The hundreds of dark red eyeballs embedded in its body stiffly reflected Leon's figure, emitting magical light, as if he was howling angrily in front of him. A new week is coming. Please read it for a while and recommend it to others. Your follow-up reading is really important during the new author's new book period. Chapter 27 Hunting. This is the Bronze Bull. Ulfric crawled out of the huge monster with blood all over his body. In fact, if it wasn't for the angle that might threaten him, from Leon's current perspective, Ulfric, who was covered in blood, would have a sense of honesty. No one knew what was done in the huge monster that was as tall as a 5-story mountain. Ulfric quickly took out a piece of white tender meat from it, and then happily crawled out of the clanging skin and grinned at Leon. Looking at the lifeless beast, Leon couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Bronze Bull. Is this from Chaos? A demon, or some twisted creature? A bronze bull from the barren land. Although most of the meat is inedible, the little meat inside is very delicious. This bronze bull may be the largest one I have ever seen, and I don't know why it came here. Using a long sword to hit the monster covered with enamel, sparks flew, and Ulfric laughed and said, "Boss, didn't you just leave?" So we thought about it and felt that we couldn't let this kind of monster stay in the territory, so I killed it and gave you this piece of good meat. Maybe it came to see me. Killing a so-called messenger, according to the petty minds of those spirits, they will definitely do something at the border, right? Feeling the red magic fluctuations of the evil beast dissipating, looking at the huge evil beast with its eyes open, Leon thought in his heart, but it's killed. He didn't plan to get along with these so-called gods. Sooner or later they would be individuals or props absorbed into his team. And to be honest, what Ulfric said was not wrong. The tender meat deep inside the copper bull is indeed very rich in flavor after just roasting. While eating the sweet and crispy copper bull roast, Leon sat in the magic of the hall, clicked on his system and started today's construction. City, Land of Descendants. Population, 2047. Civilization Spirit, your population is very messy, and the civilization spirit is temporarily confused. You need to shape the common cognition of civilization and create new nations and populations. Status, uneasy, fearful of your power. Reminder, the population of your city has reached a critical point. and you need to build sanitation and related facilities. Municipal and cultural projects need your guidance. Reminder: your cultural steward Oliver cannot undertake cultural research very well. Please pay attention. Reminder: due to supreme wisdom, you can already conduct scientific research with 100% efficiency. Reminder: you have not explored your territory yet, and you need to explore to know all the resources. Looking at these cold data, Leon fell into deep thought. In fact, these knights from the Kingdom of Knights are indeed a group of people that they need very much, but relatively speaking, due to the impact of a large number of foreign populations, the original local production relations will become fragile. The original Wonder Test site can accommodate hundreds of staff members and nearly the same number of living personnel. The internal space is relatively ample. For Leon, he initially planned to let Ulfric go to the beach to win over the Norse tribes and fill it in. By that time, the relevant technology will be lit up, and large-scale external exploration can be carried out. But the current situation is that although technology can be lit up at any time, the food, drink, and defecation of thousands of people cannot. Before, it could be delayed by building wonders and other reasons. Now, it is not easy to fool this group of people with supreme wisdom. After all, simple fooling will inevitably be seen through by them who have already had some ideas. But it is not impossible to solve it. Leon looked up at the leader of the Falcon Knights who came forward, and the pious knight knelt on one knee in front of Leon and whispered his demands very sincerely. "My lord, we have rested enough. We cannot participate in the hunting of giant beasts, which is extremely humiliating for us. Please let us carry out the crusade against chaos." "Crusade against the devil?" "Yes," the Falcon Knight in gorgeous armor said very dully. "Since he is a good knight who surrendered after seeing the Holy Grail, his pursuit of faith and honor is absolute. Eating and drinking here for a while and helping to build the wonders are the biggest limitations." But after the wonders were built, the blue maze and the sigils that came with it, they also realized that something seemed a little wrong. Although they did not run away completely, these knights also had some unrest in secret, and the final result of the unrest was that their leader came to inquire in person. "You are probably dissatisfied with this maze, right? But it doesn't matter. I understand your point of view." Using magic to support himself in the air, Leon looked at the Falcon Knight who seemed to have become a little ashamed and smiled. "But so far, the demons have appeared in scattered forms. I need you to map the area around my territory to help me extend our will. But we don't have a professional cartographer with us. You just need to bring people to stand there." Looking at the somewhat confused knight, Leon's smile was still amiable. "You are me, and I am you. The place where your sight reaches is the place where my sight reaches. Your achievements are my achievements, and my achievements are also yours. Moreover, to express my trust in you. Take it, my lord." Looking at the Holy Grail that appeared out of thin air in Leon's hand and was then thrown by him, the Falcon Knight was shocked and caught the Holy Grail in a hurry. He thought that according to the legend, a knight like him who was not qualified to touch the Holy Grail would be punished by God. But after he caught the Holy Grail with the awareness of being crushed to pieces, nothing happened. Facing this peaceful Holy Grail, the knight looked up blankly and looked at Leon in front of him. "This is my grace and encouragement to you in advance." Leon looked at him and blinked, smiling slightly. "Take your steed, some of your servants, and a week's worth of highly compressed rations. You can explore anywhere. This is the Chaos Wasteland, where your great deeds will be established. My eyes are your eyes, so don't worry about danger. In times of crisis, I will show you the way out." Under the ecstatic eyes of the knight, Leon smiled and snapped his fingers, giving them the final advice. "Also, if you have a certain pursuit of chaos hunting, I suggest you go north. I feel some breath there. It may help your exploration. Pursue honor. I will not let you down." Knights, I mean what I say. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, Lighting Up Technology and New Wonders. U sent out the Falcon Expeditionary Force. Or Falcon Expeditionary Force was divided into 17 teams and began to explore and observe the periphery. Your city's population carrying capacity has returned to normal, and there is no need for too many buildings and farmland. Your city's related infrastructure needs have returned to normal. Under the strong judgment of one person, even a team of more than 1,000 people was divided and became well organized. Because it has been determined to be integrated into this environment, a considerable number of serfs chose to stay in the landing place and became Leon's staff and related construction personnel. The remaining knights, as well as serfs who had experience in participating in wars, were sent by Leon to various areas for exploration and hunting, for small-scale demons, such as those who were unwilling to leave after being manipulated by Leon's world magic and who were weak demons relying on the elemental soil. These knights have the right to attack on their own choice, but for those large demon fortresses and corrupt settlements, they must mark them and come back to make plans. Many times, people's disagreements are not because their differences are too big to be accepted, but because there is no effective judgment mechanism and communication method between them. After Leon, the only master, briefly questioned them with psychic power and asked each other questions, the team quickly set off with colorful flags. These knights, with all kinds of honor and faith, attacked the gradually stable land. They are the knights of the goddess, born with the right to expand the territory and blast the chaos. And now, the holy grail of the goddess is emitting a green warm mist in their team. This reality makes them all hold their heads high and are full of expectations and desires for the future. Sending these knights full of faith away, the rest of the things will be much simpler for Leon. Ulfric also led a group of Norsecans, set sail with their dragon boats and a month's worth of food, and searched along the coastline, intending to bring those Norsecans with the worst lives under his command. If you are lucky, you may even meet people from the war gang and communicate and trade through the symbols brought by your supreme wisdom. After the two groups of fighting forces left, only the obedient serfs and the group of captives were left around Leon. With the help of Oliver, the cultural director, the captives were very stable and there were no accidents. As for Leon, it was not until now that he really had the space to study. Lord, what are your orders? No orders. If I want you to do something, you should have thought of it in your own mind, but don't be surprised later. I may ask you to do something greater. After taking a look at his research list, Leon smiled at Oliver, who was a little confused, and locked himself in the observatory again. Facing the complex universe, Leon flipped through his mind and lit up all the pages related to scientific research. In the next moment, the blue color representing wisdom instantly filled his consciousness, and he began to calculate the methods and progress of various primitive technologies. You studied technology, farming. You studied technology, exploration. You studied technology, images. You studied technology, accumulation. You studied technology, narration. Although it was not at the level of swiping the screen, the scientific research knowledge provided by all Norscan researchers, although it is strange to say this, the test area and the system can indeed do this, almost instantly provided countless lights in front of Leon, because the Norsecans are not completely unaware of these concepts. In the case of looting along the coastline and continuous offensive and defensive battles, the Norsecans actually had a certain degree of understanding of the outside world, and with the addition of the knights, the accumulation of this knowledge is only a final step. Finally, with the on-site data provided by the serfs, it is equivalent to providing a 99% Eureka state of the progress bar. Only a few points of the last production, or even just a little scientific research, can light up the technology. And the final result is that in front of Leon, countless production and construction facilities are unfolded like a swiping screen. How to farm, how to fish, how to tan leather, how to build a house that will not be destroyed by the natural environment in the short term, how to cover up your own smell, how to conduct physical hygiene checks and cleaning, how to retrieve herbs and basic plant management. All kinds of basic knowledge began to emerge in the minds of everyone in the territory like memories, making every resident look at the spire that dyed the sky blue in amazement. But Leon was not most concerned about these basic knowledge. After taking a look at the logo of the basic stage of magic technology and the logo of wonders, Leon opened the construction column about world wonders with hope. Dozens of wonders that can be built under primitive technology were listed in front of Leon. Similarly, there was gray that represented unbuildable. World Wonder Great Library, Magic, White Tower of Hose, has been built. World Wonder Great Pyramid, Magic, Pyramid of Osta, has been built. World Wonder Sky Garden, Magic, Paradise Garden, has been built. World Wonder Baths, Magic, Baths of Erathia, has been built. World Wonder Terracotta Warriors, Magic, Mechanical City, has been built. World Wonder Temple of Artemis, Magic, Sanctuary of Azurian, has been built. World Wonder Oracle, Magic, Hall of Dwarven Ancestors, has been built. World Wonders. I'm going to kill all those who stole my wonders. Looking at the rows of black, unbuildable wonders above, Leon gritted his teeth, his heart filled with boundless anger. Damn it, why do you, a group of natives, build wonders? But Leon still noticed that among the countless dim lights, there were still some buildings that flashed with light that could be built. Does the player build the Temple of Etmanani, Magic, Temple of the Decayed Spirit? Requirements: 1,500 productivity, 700 basic stone, 100 magic sacrifice, 1,000 magic, large plot of swamp elements. It can provide a special state, the Wisdom of Decay, for all members of the player's faction. Arranging citizen work on any plot with rebirth and cycle symbolic elements such as swamps, decay, and alluvial plains can all get a certain degree of scientific research and productivity blessing. The upper limit is 1 point of scientific research, 1 point of magic, and 1 point of productivity per person. The cyclic element plot will provide a magic field and be regarded as a magic outpost. At the same time, you can perform magic operations to change its form. Swamp plots can be created through magic operations. Your building is likely to bring some wonderful changes to the world. It's a bit rubbish, but what else can I do? The good things have been taken by others, so I'll just make do with it. At worst, I can use magic to hard fill magic technology and see what wonders the magic technology of the new era has. After looking at the appearance of several other wonders, Liang finally chose this building that looked quite strange and had a feeling of abscess. Please read this. This is really important to me. Chapter 29, The Wonders of Corruption and the Wisdom of Decay. The residents of your territory have developed a sense of distrust. The residents of your territory have developed great discomfort. Please note that if the comfort level continues to decline, the residents of your territory are likely to flee the city. Please quickly raise the comfort level to normal levels. Don't even mention the residents of your territory. I feel sick just looking at it myself. Looking at the countless former serfs and captives in the swamp, pinching their noses and crawling up and down on the squirming building, although it was very impolite, Leon always imagined them as maggots on corrupt things. Because this spectacle is really disgusting, even though he is the individual responsible for regulating magic power. Even though he personally decided to build this building, but when he really saw the disgusting corrupt temple gradually being built, Leon still felt a physiological discomfort from the bottom of his heart. The Temple of Etmanangi, in Leon's original world, is believed to be the prototype of the mythical building Tower of Babel. This building seems to have a very ominous sign in many legends, as if the people who built it and the people who decided on it have never been lucky. But in this world, the magicized Etmanan temple obviously has different problems. Although it is not the Tower of Babel, it presents another serious problem in Leon's eyes. After choosing a call, Leon used magic to corrupt and transform the area inside the mountain. The formation of a swamp area is not a waste of Leon's energy. But looking at the construction method of the Wonder Building, as well as the appearance and architectural concept, Leon began to doubt whether his construction of this wonder would lead to a bit of alienation, because it looks much more heretical than the maze looming in the mountain. In Leon's construction blueprint, The image of the corrupted temple looks like a rotting and smelly corpse in the swamp, an abomination that is being viewed by the giants. The serfs and workers were pinching their noses, wandering around the corrupted temple unwillingly, spreading some rotten food, and chanting runes that they didn't know what they meant, but could effectively guide magic. Leon was thankful that the knights had already dispersed and started to explore the map, otherwise they would have been in a state of confusion or rebellion. But as the rotten building gradually took shape, Leon could feel that his consciousness also sank. The corrupt, damp, warm swamp seemed to give people another choice. Every time a wonder began to be built, Leon could feel that these wonders seemed to give him a unique feeling. For example, the sense of manipulation of the world torn apart by Stonehenge, the illusion of omnipotence brought by the Vientiane maze, and the strange warmth given to him by the corrupted temple. After the third day, when the serfs finally began to vomit and fled from the squirming building, Leon was finally relieved and saw the prompt as he wished. You have created a new wonder, your civilization progress has increased. The cumulative progress of your civilization wonders is 300%. After the creation of civilization, this trait will become a part of your civilization. Your civilization construction currently lacks population, cognitive turning point, second city or spreading area. Please work harder. At the moment of completion, the disgusting building on the swamp became even more disgusting. It was as if Leon's final magic guidance gave this thing life. The pale shell sank and swayed in the swamp and began to release layers of yellow-green mist. Those ordinary workers didn't even have time to scream before they were covered by countless mists. But fortunately, this was not some weird poisonous mist that could kill people. It was a manifestation of the ability of this rotten temple. The wisdom of decay began to spread. You got a lot of clues about wisdom. You realized the cage of the god of wisdom. A warm and moist warmth came from my mind, as if wrapped in something. Looking at the spectacle of the rotten green smoke that kept spraying in the swamp and shrouding his figure in the swamp, Leon slowly breathed a sigh of relief. This rotten temple, although ugly, tastes really good. A rotten wisdom solved some of the confusion in his heart, and also let Leon understand what the so-called god of wisdom is. Rather than saying it is a god of wisdom, it is better to say it is a god of stupidity. Although the ability of wisdom is given, it has placed an indescribable poison of wisdom in every corner of the dark. At the beginning, it is indeed possible to use these wisdom and ideas to solve a certain degree of problems. But in fact, this is a clever toxin. The more you use this wisdom, the more you will go astray. Then in the later research and development, there will definitely be different thoughts and ideas to interfere, and the things forged are basically demon creations. What's even more disgusting is that this blessing is impossible not to accept. In other words, everyone who is doing scientific research can hardly cross this cage because they have no knowledge of this aspect at all. However, Leon, who has rotten wisdom and plugins, doesn't have to worry about this problem at all. As for why, because the cage of the god of wisdom is just a negative buff for Leon. You have come into contact with the technology of the classical era. The cage of the god of wisdom has begun to operate. All technologies in the classical era need to consume an additional 25% of scientific research points to conduct research. It's just a minus 25%, not as much as a disaster. And most importantly, Leon has discovered another function of the rotten temple. Within the sphere of influence, any swamp plot element can be regarded as an extension of Leon's body and a magic sentry. In other words, even if there is only a small piece of non-renewable land, Leon can cover it. As soon as he got this ability, Leon gave the knights a suggestion through brain control, that is, in all key areas and after observing suspicious phenomena, just create a small swamp on the spot. As for the requirements of the swamp, it is actually very broad. As long as you have the concept of water, soil and the cycle of life and death. In other words, as long as you dig a hole on the ground, add some water to mix it, and sprinkle the blood of your own people in it, Leon will be able to emerge from it. Good stuff. Although it is a good thing, it is really disgusting. Leon resisted the psychological discomfort and finally manipulated his magic to pull those civilians who seemed to be intoxicated out of the swamp. Before Leon could say a few words to appease these civilians who were in a state of ups and downs, a scarlet reminder caught Leon's attention. The god of war is enraged by your pretense. He decided to send a demon army to destroy your home. I didn't bother you, but you came to me instead? Looking at the scarlet words on the reminder, Leon was almost laughing out of anger. Chapter 30, The Demonic Army. In the cognition of the old world, the world seems to be fighting in chaos forever. Every population, every country, and every individual seems to have their own eternal enemies and eternal wars waiting. In every corner with historical records, any race has written the countless crimes committed by all other populations against their own race. Various massacres, conspiracies, and betrayals are staged in the dark old world. People living in this world are immersed in this eternal struggle. They will not look at the outside world for a few more times, because those who have the courage and perseverance to walk out of the old world have taken root in other continents and regions and will never come back. For the people of the old world, the country outside the domain looks so weak and cruel, that gentleness weakens the justice of hatred and revenge, and that ideal is the most unacceptable betrayal of one's own blood debt and pain. Therefore, every person in the old world is full of unwarranted anger, hatred, vigilance, and determination to kill the outside world. Compared with other regions, the struggle in the old world is often accompanied by massacres and the destruction of the entire region. Whether it is chaos or the so-called order, they all do the same thing: destroy a city, tamper with a history book, and let all the past greatness be buried in the dust. Only the broken walls and some sporadic sneaky legends record that the world cycle has been repeated again and again. The Knights of Britannia are also one of them. They believe in justice and honor, and morality illuminates the entire old world like a star in the night. But at the same time, under the honor of Britannia are the blood, tears and sufferings of countless serfs. But so what? For the serfs, it is enough to have the knights to guarantee their safety. Otherwise, these powerless civilians will only die a sad death, a meaningless death, like a stink bug or a maggot, wailing and dying anywhere. That's why knights appear, so knights can enjoy the best food, the best education, the most perfect armor, and then fight against the most evil enemies. The Knights of Britannia believe that they will not feel fear when fighting any powerful enemy. Just as their legend said, under the light of the goddess's holy grail, all the knights will polish their armor and carry out their chivalry in the final battle. At the edge of this world, they finally realized the essence of what they were fighting against. So that's it. This is the real enemy. This is the first time I've seen such a scene. Pulling off the veil on his face, a knight looked at the distant scenery with a dull look. Under Leon's command, countless knights gathered on the hillside, overlooking the distorted scenery below. Amid the huge wounds caused by the stone circle and the roar of magic manipulation, the knights vaguely saw the boundless demon army covering the snowfield through the distorted light curtain. These demons roared, twisted, and continuously attacked the invisible barrier. They charged fearlessly at the edge of the stone circle, and then twisted into dust in the rules of reality and dissipated in the air. They were about to succeed. The twisted will of the demon of death made the flames and the chaos more condensed. Those sinful creatures roared, looked at the knights eagerly, and roared like intimidation. Only in a magical environment and with the use of special rituals can demons appear in the real world without scruples. Another way is to completely distort the real space. Now, the huge Stonehenge has torn the space between reality and illusion, and the huge wall has twisted the snowfield where demons are rampant into a hot land. The monsters are now repeating this twisting process with their existence. They are about to adapt to the rules of the Stonehenge. Although the environment still looks cold, there is no doubt that this is a land that can be lived in. The knights stepped on the hillside full of black soil, overlooking the endless demon army, feeling the fear and excitement overflowing from their bodies. But at this moment, a deafening laugh suddenly came from the demon army. Ha ha ha! Bretonnian knights, an unimaginable huge red demon rushed over, pushing away all the surrounding demons. Its burning pupils looked at the knights and roared blasphemously. I've seen you. That was a really refreshing slaughter. Why are you hiding behind this barrier? Why don't you dare to face me like you did before? Face your death. Face me, the great knight's disaster. Humphrey, a clown's trick. The leader of the Falcon Knights looked at the demon army at the bottom of the hill with a disdainful expression on his face. After taking a look at the tall and unimaginable demon and the posture of not daring to cross the line, the knights knew it clearly. The demon was extremely cunning and wanted to trick them into a miracle so that he could kill them all, as if because his plan was seen through. The angry red demon roared angrily on the other side of the world full of natural elements, smashing the ground full of magma and blizzard into pieces. I swear I will kill you, little bugs. I will definitely kill you, as long as I can get behind this curtain. This damn reality barrier blocks everything. Come here, let me kill you all. Didn't you hear me? Come out and face me. The knights looked down at the demons below, unmoved. However, it is probably only a matter of time before these demon armies enter the range covered by the Stonehenge. With those demon servants who keep attacking, the scales covering their bodies look more and more real, and the spraying flames and the breath of sin seem to be close at hand. It won't take long for these demons to rely on the reality distortion brought about by the death of their companions and finally walk into the Stonehenge. Just one look will tell that those demons probably won't regard them as any difficult opponents. But will the Knights of the Goddess give up? The Holy Grail is here, and they are here. How can these demons compete with those blessed ones? This is just a step on their road to glory, a link to honor them. My fellow knights, please listen to me. Driving his steed, the leader of the Falcon Knights held high the shining Holy Grail in his hand, walked in front of everyone, and spoke loudly. Chapter 31 Knights, prepare to charge. The leader of the Falcon Knights is a knight who looks elegant and noble. He always wears the most shining armor, maintains the most elegant posture, and even has his beard trimmed neatly. As a knight who follows the Holy Grail, he is now recognized by the Holy Grail. There is a brilliant light lingering on his body, which is the proof of being a knight of the kingdom. In Britannia, the knights of the kingdom must go to the Green Tide to prove themselves, or serve as the guardian of a city to supervise and act as the agent of the vacant territory after the Night King goes on an expedition. The style of Britannia is destined to make their chivalrous path extreme. In fact, the roots of Britannia lie in the knights. Every call and action of the Night King will bring out all the high-level knights, and those who stay behind are often regarded as ordinary people who cannot fight, or knights with inferior abilities. It is precisely because of this that the chivalrous expedition is so popular. No knight or lord will tolerate such an insult to themselves. Britannia is about the strong protecting the weak, and if they are not involved in things like fighting the Green Tide and fighting the undead, they will be the weak who are protected. That's why they chose the chivalrous expedition to prove the necessity of their existence from different places. This ritual did not exist in Britannia at the beginning, but with the development of multiple generations of Night Kings, especially with the previous Night King, the Paladin Artoria who always appeared in iron mask and full armor, such a custom was eventually formed. But now, they are not weaklings. On the contrary, they have completed the original purpose of the chivalrous expedition, and now fighting against the demons is the climax of the chivalrous expedition. We were weaklings. Riding on his steed, the Falcon Knight wandered in front of many knights and said loudly, "We were not chosen by the king and could not participate in the great battlefield against the Green Tide. We are the protected weaklings. In the eyes of those kingdom knights, we are a group of commoners. We failed to prove our strength in the knights' competition. We failed to show our true bravery and grace. We are not as good as those great and noble upper-class knights. Morality, character, martial arts, none of us seems to be decent. But, we have done it now. The Holy Grail is here, and the enemy is in front of us. Moreover, it is our ancient enemy, the great demon named Knight's Disaster that appeared in the war against Chaos. It is a monster that once killed countless great knights." Looking at the huge monster roaring below and its figure becoming brighter and brighter, the Falcon Knight's voice was extremely loud. "We are now on the most noble battlefield," he shouted loudly. "We will become heroes in all history books, and we will kill all the demons. Perhaps this is the day we die here, but it will be worth remembering. Knights, see, there is an enemy over there that is worth fighting." Fight, fight, fight. The cold wind was biting, but the blazing light of faith even ignited the sky. The Holy Grail burst into a blazing light amid the warm cheers, and countless light green mists spread out, making all the knights present feel that their fatigue was instantly dissipated. On the hillside, the knights had formed a column. Even though their team looked extremely thin and weak compared to the demons, their high morale and the light of the Holy Grail ignited by the lances in their hands proved that they had the ability to fully kill the demons. However, just when everyone wanted to start the tragic charge, a great will suddenly descended on their minds. "I'm sorry, but I don't think your life should stop here. My lord?" Hearing the voice that fell upon his ears, the Falcon Knight was stunned. "We have seen the demon army you mentioned, and we are also sure that this is a battle of our destiny." "Why?" "How long do you think you can resist?" "Forever, my lord. As long as our breath is still there, these demons will not be able to threaten our territory. As long as one of us is alive, they will never be able to set foot in this sacred area." "No, I mean, I have an idea." In the minds of the knights, Leon's voice is still so relaxed and indifferent, as if some transcendent existence suddenly thought of something interesting. "I suddenly remembered that if the demons want to enter this world, they must first understand the elements here. In other words, this place must be relatively stable, right? And they have no problem with small places being unstable. Only large-scale changes in elements can cause the collapse of their existence, and the demons are fearless because they believe that they will never die. Even if they die, they can be resurrected in another space, right?" "Yes, my lord." The knight responded in his heart as he looked at the demons at the bottom of the hill, whose number had been reduced by almost 9/10, but whose bodies were getting bigger and bigger, their breaths were getting more and more realistic, and they were even starting to leave burn marks on the soil. As long as their concepts are not shattered, as long as they are not allowed to leave forever, these demons will sooner or later gain strength in the void and revive again. Even the knight's disaster has been suppressed several times, but on the contrary, if they can be truly killed, they will surely be extremely panicked, right? Then I understand. You just need to charge, and leave the rest to me. Yes, my lord. The Falcon Knights bowed their heads and accepted the order in their hearts. They looked at each other, began to urge their horses under their crotches, and raised their lances in unison and began to charge towards the demon camp at the bottom of the hill. "Poor little knights, are you going to show your blood? Do you think we have no ability to resist at this time? Very good, very good. I will fulfill your wish. Dedicate all your blood and skulls to my lord." Just as the demons laughed at the charging knights, Leon stood silently in front of the stone circle 100 kilometers away, smiled and snapped his fingers. "Large-scale magic operation, regional plainization. Turn all the mountainous areas on my border into plains." The stable stone circle suddenly made a terrifying roar that humans could not hear. Large-scale element gathering and ultra-large-scale element mobilization will cause the surrounding environment to become unstable. This is common sense in the magic world. The moment they felt the turbulence of the surrounding magic elements, the faces of the demons suddenly became terrified. "In the name of Lord Leon, die forever, demon!" The knight shining with white light roared, and instantly poured the extremely hot lance in his hand into the twisted head of the demon, instantly exploding it into a handful of white light. Chapter 32. You are not God, and neither am I. Demons are nearly perfect killing machines. In a sense, they have many similarities with players. For example, the immortal body makes them fearless, and because the body can come at any time, they do things according to their own preferences. Many times, people even think that demons may be players in this world to some extent. They constantly hone their skills, do what they want to do, and show some extraordinary feelings and cognition. Many times, they even show full of emotions and richness. But only those who have studied deeply know that these demons have no emotions. They are just a phenomenon, a symbol, a grotesque body that looks normal but actually has no feelings at all. But what's interesting is that when these things really face the complete extinction of personality, their performance is even worse than that of ordinary intelligent life. Seeing the possible permanent silence, these monsters fled in all directions, and even some reptiles were stronger than them. No, no, what is this? Lord Blood God, save me! Familiar screams, and familiar endings. At the moment when the stone circle shook the earth and disrupted all their environment, the knights' charge instantly split their formation into pieces. Normally, these demons would have been furious, and then roared and chopped the knights in half with a knife, but seeing their fellow demons turned into light particles and screamed and dragged into the void, these demons were afraid. They could feel that permanent death was beginning to fall on them. Knight's Scourge, the demon that had been wreaking havoc in Britannia for a long time, fell to the ground without a sound. The huge body that was like a hill seemed to dissolve, dismantling into countless rune chains and black magic on the black land, gradually rising into the sky. The demons screamed and cried, but they were anchored in place because of the large-scale magic vibration. In the huge ritual to transform mountains and valleys into plains, the demons could only maintain their individual existence. It didn't have much impact on humans because it was a chronic ritual for a month. But for the demons, this was no less than the collapse of the sky and the crack of the earth. This is the power of Lord Leon, for the knights, for the land of Descend. The Falcon Knights rushed to the end of the influence of the Stonehenge, and cheered all day long as they watched the demons dissolving on the ground. At the same time, Leon, who had been monitoring this side, manipulating the huge magic power in nature, and began to decompose the demons, finally received his own prompt message: a brilliant victory. Your Falcon Knights have completed a legendary enemy kill. The Falcon Knights have been promoted to a special combat unit. Because of the special resume of the Falcon Knights, the special ability of its core must have the characteristics of hunting demons. It will cause more powerful damage to all chaos demons. Because of a brilliant victory, Isaac, the great knight of the Falcon Knights, has begun his own heroic path. Please let him act and fight more. He is likely to become a lord unit. You performed well in this battle. The knights were slightly injured and one was seriously injured. 214 demons died. Your control defaults to sacrificing all demons. Because of your sacrifice choice, you have gained a lot of knowledge about the path of war and magic. You defeated the attack of the Blood God and killed all the cowards without leaving any prisoners, which made the Blood God very satisfied with you. He forgave you for your offense to the Bronze Bull. Win. Looking at the ending in his sight, Leon thought tiredly, this victory was not just due to the Stonehenge. The main thing that Leon was surprised to find was that since the construction of the Rotten Temple and the Vientiane Labyrinth, his magic ability has greatly improved. The intuitive view is that the sacrifice was very professional. Those demons who were defeated and seriously injured and whose bodies began to disintegrate did not even have the choice to return to the Chaos Wasteland. Instead, they were torn apart by Leon's Stonehenge as if they had entered the killing line, and turned into runes and streams of light that poured into the Stonehenge. The complicated blood-colored runes became knowledge and marks, symbols, and imprints on Leon's body and spirit. As mentioned before, demons are the embodiment of some phenomena. Although they look like intelligent creatures, they are essentially living structures of magic and knowledge. After sacrificing and dissolving them, a large amount of magic and knowledge is obtained. In one day, Leon manipulated the construction of wonders, triggered the stone circle to modify environmental elements, and constantly dismantled the demon structure to sacrifice it. To be honest, it was really tiring. Under Leon's instructions, the knights have begun to return home to drink and celebrate, ready for the next round of legendary wars. And Leon, exhausted physically and mentally, returned to his observatory. Feeling the weightless suspension, he quietly closed his eyes and chose to accept the baptism of the information trend. You killed a large demon and got clues about the Blood God. You can unlock the war path. The promotion of the war path requires blood and struggle. Only after paying the blood of 10,000 intelligent creatures, the war path will open the next link. As expected at the beginning. In fact, it is probably not necessary to have any tokens to enter the path. Just as Liang did not think those things were gods at the beginning, Looking at the various values and prompts sliding in front of him, Liang quickly found the key points he cared about. Those demons selflessly provided a lot of knowledge and magic power, and pointed some strange-looking magic technologies to the places close to lighting up. These are the special targets to be explored next, and there may be new wonders. The lighting of the war path and war magic power has given Liang and the people of the faction the ability to simulate the blood god mark to obtain blessings. Rather than saying it is an attack by the blood god, it is better to say that a big gift package is coming. It gives Liang a better ability to resist risks in the face of subsequent war crises. But, 10,000 people. Looking at the promotion sign, Liang thought a little subtly. But killing 10,000 intelligent creatures to advance, in this world's definition, is also a demon. How can dealing with pests be called killing? If it doesn't work, just pile up demons. Leon quickly gave up thinking and planned to relax his tired spirit. But at this moment, Leon saw a line of small words flashing below his system. Tip: your servant Ulfric is being tested. 20 dungeon is here too? Can you give me some time to catch my breath? Otherwise, I will die here sooner or later. Looking at the line of small words, Leon instinctively raised his eyebrows. Please give me some time to post and read. It's really important to me. Chapter 33. Is he a god? 1 hour ago. The Siren Sea. Since leaving the area covered by the Stonehenge, the world seems to have become familiar to the Norse people, following the coastline once known as the Northern Chaos Sea, heading towards the inner Siren Sea. The waters that originally looked clear and vibrant have once again become turbid and unclear, and even the backs of some bizarre monsters float in the ocean from time to time. But I don't know if it was because of Leon's protection or the light blue chaos mark on them. The huge sirens did not attack the Norse fleet, but to be honest, even if they really attacked, the Norse people were not very afraid. When they had no way to get food, they often went out to sea to hunt these monsters in the ocean, in extreme cases to fill the gap in the village's diet. And now, they have some devilish wisdom, and they are constantly moving forward in the storm and the ocean. It's like there is a common database in their minds. Even facing the magic storm blowing from the direction of the chaos snowfield, these sails and queues can move forward in unison in the wrath of nature. This was not someone's protection, but their instinctive operation after having the wisdom that Liang imparted out of thin air. Sailing was like an instinct imprinted in their bones, and the imprint of supreme wisdom made it easy for them to draw inferences from one instance, constantly innovate, and freely sail in this cursed ocean, this sea area where even the floating island warships of the Dark Elves could be destroyed and sunk. But to this day, the Norscans have not lost a single person and are still moving towards their goal at a super high speed. They can even use the stars in the sky to anchor their direction and use knowledge to control the sails to sail the seven seas. This is probably the most perfect moment in the lives of the Norscans. Deep snow fell from the sky, and the Norscan dragon boats moved along the rugged and terrifying chaotic snowfield. Their goal is to reach the frozen sea this afternoon and then find the nearest Norscan gathering place before the sun sets. Because the task is relatively easy, many people on the Norscan dragon boats have even leaned against the cabin and started chatting with the people around them. I think Leon is God. The Norscan, whose beard and hair were soaked with snowflakes, said in a muffled voice. He said he wasn't, but he is. He is greater than the dark gods that the high priest said. I am so smart now and have so much knowledge. If he is not God, then who is? But he said he is not. That must be a lie. To reassure us, facing the objection of a young boy standing on the dragon head, the middle-aged Norscan said in a deep voice, look at the symbol of the condor on us, which is a symbol of wisdom. Even the dark god was persuaded by Leon and blessed us with his mark. So he must be God. Maybe he is the incarnation of the dark gods. Then what about the Holy Grail? It's not like we haven't beaten those tin cans before. How could they believe that Leon is the incarnation of the god of wisdom? The Holy Grail is shining. Then I don't know, but he must be God. The old Norscan scratched his scalp and gave his thoughts very stiffly. Norscans are generally very stubborn in their determination of things, and they don't have any special tricks. Whatever he feels, he thinks it should be like that, so he will believe it. Even if Leon and a certain regional psychic aggregate were enlightened, The thinking logic could not be distorted in the short term. They thought for a long time and argued with each other, but there was no result. But when the dragon boat passed a corner, a seemingly silent trader started thinking and felt that his wisdom seemed to flash. He claims that he is not a god, but he can control the things of gods. So is there a possibility that the boss is actually right? What do you mean? He may be greater than the gods we know. Just like he said, he is the old ruler of this world, and sooner or later he will lead us to the path of dominating the world. It seems to make some sense. That should be it. Hey, what do the people on the other ships think? In the silent sea of sirens, the voices of the Norsemen on the ocean were transmitted very far, and even the surrounding dragon boats could hear them clearly. The Norsemen, who had become impatient due to the long voyage, immediately split into several factions, confronting each other, using the loud voices and curses of Norsemen to attack the lower third and immediate family members of those who disagreed with them, just like quarrels in every corner of the world. Listening to such a lively and energetic voice, the man standing at the front of the dragon head smiled and turned to look at the leader, who was inside the cabin with a big sword on his back and a hand axe on his waist. Ulfric, did you hear that? Everyone is very curious. As the first messenger of the gods, what do you think? I don't know. Ulfric, standing in the cabin, said in a muffled voice with dark circles under his eyes. He always had a strange ominous premonition in his heart. Just like the day when the sea monster's leg was gnawed by parasites at home, there was a strange sense of danger, like an ant crawling. But just like when he didn't find it at the beginning, he could only feel a kind of boredom and uneasiness spreading in his heart. But he couldn't find the source of the sense of crisis at all, and he didn't sleep well for 3 consecutive days. Ulfric's friend just shrugged as he watched this scene. Well, Ulfric, how long will it take to reach the frozen sea? Well, there's still about 30 nautical miles. Damn it, why do I know this kind of knowledge? Ahaha, everyone is the same. The feeling of constantly stuffing this kind of knowledge into your brain and then constantly understanding it is really amazing, to be honest. The friend laughed, stepped down from the faucet, and patted Ulfric on the shoulder. Okay, let's not talk about this. We are all adults. It's time to talk about some sensitive topics. Ulfric, do you think Leon is a god? Didn't you ask me just now? I don't know, but this is indeed a very important question. Ulfric, looking at Ulfric, who was resistant and awkward, his friend sighed and said seriously, it has been so long, Ulfric, we are all very clear about this. All this is too abnormal. Even the power of the dark gods is operating freely in his hands. I don't believe you don't know what those blue marks are. Even your current state is likely to be related to this. I am very worried about you, Ulfric. We are all small people, trash robbed on the ocean, and we don't know when we will die. But if you don't understand your position, you won't even know how you die. So we must now recognize our position, who we are and what we have to do. You are the leader. We listen to you. I said I don't know, just as Ulfric rejected this question with annoyance. The lookout standing on the dragon's head suddenly issued a warning. Ulfric, we found black smoke ahead. It came from the village we passed by before. What? Ulfric didn't bother to talk to his friends and walked quickly to the bow. Looking at the thick black smoke, Ulfric felt that the uneasiness in his heart seemed to gradually turn into real panic. Chapter 34. The destruction of the Norskans. The north of the Siren Sea and the Chaos Sea is generally the range of the Chaos Wasteland and the completely twisted demon tribe. People living in this range can basically not be called human beings, but only demons or demon servants. Their thoughts and spirits have been corrupted by the magic wind of the Chaos Wasteland. Their behavior and thoughts are not so much human as they are beasts close to human form. Although the Norskans have a tradition of self-destruction and the pursuit of noble death, they are still relatively resistant to this state. The frozen sea at the edge of the Siren Sea is the so-called edge of the human world. Here, although the figure of the devil occasionally appears, it is not everywhere like the Chaos Wasteland and Chaos Snowfield. In addition, there will be some fish and berries that can be eaten normally on the land and sea. Although life is difficult, at least you can survive. As for the area where Leon is located, It should have been called the Broken Land in the past. There are no living people there except a group of chaos demons and various pirates. So it takes 3 days to sail all the way to the nearest area with traces of civilization. Even this is at the highest speed all the way. Under normal circumstances, it may take no less than 10 days to reach the edge of the frozen sea. This is enough to highlight how desperate Leon's position is. By the way, who knows how the chivalrous expedition fleet came? Maybe someone helped them along the way. But Ulfric came to the frozen sea this time not to rob the poor buddies of their last fruits, but to help them find a good way out. The land of descendants where Leon is located, even if the wonder city made of steel is not counted, even the land that has been developed is enough to be called rich in water and grass and abundant in products. Although it is not as good as the southern countries and those areas that specialize in operating magic power, for the poor Norscans, this place is as beautiful as heaven. Ulfric did not have any resistance to recruiting Norscans to arrive at the land of descendants, but the moment he saw the black smoke of destruction rising from the location of the village, Ulfric had a feeling of sudden enlightenment, or a feeling of connecting all the clues together. Although he did not know what his brain understood, Ulfric knew very well that he seemed to understand something. That is, when it comes to gods, even a small thing can turn into a disaster. Come over, Ulfric. Let's send a vanguard to take a look. This situation is very unusual. I say, come over. I'm afraid this is a punishment. Punishment. Under the observer's puzzled gaze, Ulfric shook his head silently without explaining anything. The originally joyous atmosphere of the fleet suddenly became suppressed. No one sang and danced anymore, and no one made noise anymore. Under the magical snowflakes in the sky, the fleet silently sailed through the fjord and witnessed the tragic situation of the village at the edge of civilization. Just as Ulfric said, that was a punishment. It was as if the evil gods were venting their anger, and a scene that made people feel cold and horrified from the bottom of their hearts appeared in front of everyone. It was the Blood Eagle, a village, 145 people, including 27 children, 17 elderly people, 35 women, and 6 pregnant women. These people, along with the adult Norscan laborers, were carved into blood eagles, standing on the edge of the coast, silently watching the returning Norscan dragon ships. The cryogenically frozen eyeballs seemed like glass, reflecting the turbid light and shadow. Even the baby in the pregnant woman's belly was carefully made into a small blood eagle, inserted under the pregnant woman to show the relationship. Behind this cruelty, a group of figures that the Norscans once worshipped were jumping in joy in the center of the village. They built a huge bonfire, with scattered human organs hanging on it, screaming to express their respect for the dark gods. In the center of the bonfire, the grotesque and twisted condor sculpture was emitting the familiar blue light, looking at the Norscan team playfully, as if they were shocked. This is a divine punishment, Ulfric. This is the consequence of your disrespect for the gods. Looking at the horrible and bloody scene in silence, an old and trembling voice came out from the crowd. Hearing the hoarse voice, Ulfric turned around in surprise and looked at the short figure who had walked out of the crowd at some point, holding a long staff and trembling all over. High Priest, when did you get on the ship? Looking at the thin and dry body, Ulfric said in surprise. At the beginning, the High Priest had fainted when he checked Leon. It seemed that because of the severe backlash, everyone put him in another room and didn't take it seriously. And when he was transferred, the High Priest didn't wake up directly. But to be honest, this kind of thing is quite common in Norska, and everyone didn't take it seriously. After arranging the High Priest to protect the landing place and leaving 2 reports, the Norscans set off along the coastline. But now, the figure of the High Priest appeared here, which made this incident seem a little ambiguous. He didn't choose to stay with Leon, but woke up a long time ago and secretly stayed in the Norscan fleet. It was obvious that he planned to bypass Leon. I'm not old enough for you to notice me getting on board. The Norscan priest coughed. His eyes were not visible in his deep eye sockets. You have all been deceived by the evil god. Haven't you felt it yet? Your wisdom, your ability, your strength. Which one is not given to you by the condor? It seems to be true. Yes, isn't wisdom and other things all from the condor? It can't be a liar, right? Haven't we all experienced it? Seeing the respected high priest, Many people began to waver. The high priest looked at the wavering people. His mouth corners curled up like an eagle, his hands spread out like wings, and he let out a dry scream. You have all been deceived. The light blue flame burned in his pupils, and the scream echoed on the coast. Obviously, this is the wrath of the condor. They gave you wisdom and encouragement in desperate situations, but you were deceived by that evil god, that despicable incarnation. He must be the evil god of Britannia. He deceived you and used his power and language to make you create scars on the world. They want you, as the people of the condor, to serve him blindly. Look, this is the punishment of the condor for our disloyalty. Don't you wake up yet? The punishment of the condor. The commotion has begun to spread among the crowd, and changes have begun to appear in the fleet. Because it is the punishment of God, it has led to the most miserable and painful deaths of hundreds of people, leading to this result. Looking at the ice-carved blood eagles on the edge of the coast, Ulfric frowned and held his axe. With the creaking sound, blue veins spread from his palm until the whole arm became bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty? Why do I feel a kind of hot blood, a blazing fire burning in my heart? Ulfric. A calm voice sounded in Ulfric's heart. I have mastered the power of the god of struggle. You don't need to worry about anything. Just do what you want. Along with the words full of trust, a layer of light red light appeared in Ulfric's palm. It was a grotesque symbol full of fierce fighting emotions, wanting to tear everything apart. It was the mark of the divine dog, the bloodthirster, and the god of struggle. Looking at the high priest in front of him who was eloquent and looked like a double-headed eagle with spread wings, Ulfric closed his eyes and sneered. You are lying, priest. I talked to the editor and it has passed the first round. Thank you all for your support. I will spend an evening to proofread and correct the previous plot and text. I really appreciate your support. So please read it. I really ask you to read it every day. Thank you. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. I'm tired of red tape. Although it is not his territory, as long as his team passes by, the surrounding terrain will be recorded in detail. Similarly, as long as his team is still on the move, Leon can cast his eyes on the leader of the team. So Leon knows everything that Ulfric treats. Obviously, some so-called gods who can't afford to play have begun to act. After the god of struggle, it is the god of wisdom. The high priest was not a figure in Leon's team from the beginning, but he was ignored. But for Ulfric, who has mastered the blood god seal, such a twisted individual is not an opponent. To be honest, it's mainly a mental shake. But in terms of spirit, no matter how much you shake, is it useful? Leon's voice reaches the soul directly through the link. Whether it is knowledge, ability, or planned area, as long as Leon shifts his sights, it is a direct link. So when Ulfric began to waver and was realized by Leon, everything was doomed. I've told you not to trust gods and priests. Just trust me. Do you understand the meaning of what I'm saying now? These Norse cans really don't learn. The rebellious psychology of the national character still exists, and it's time to change it. Looking at Ulfric, who beheaded the high priest who turned into a strange bird with a knife in his sight, Leon shook his head helplessly and felt the changes from them. Under your guidance, Ulfric, and the Norse can's attitude is firm. Your unique civilization moment has arrived. Your civilization's major events begin to be recorded. In the first month of the Advent calendar, the suspicious and manic Norse can Ulfric and a group of Bretonnian captives witnessed the advent of the miracle on the Broken Coast. They saw the incarnation of the god of gods, and saw the scene of the world revolving everything with a loud bang. The Norse cans believed that this was their miracle, but the Bretonnian knights also thought so. For various reasons, this miracle was tampered with and became the malice of other gods. Ulfric was bewitched by the demon of the god of wisdom in his confusion, but at this moment, his faith broke out. He killed the two-headed demon and proved your holiness on the bloodship. The Norse cans vowed to get a better future, and they believed that your steps and promises could carry for thousands of years. Now trigger the civilization event, the Norse migration. Civilization event, Norse migration. The Norse-Kans once fought hard with the Imperials and Kislevites, and they failed, and could only survive in the barren mountains and ice fields of the north. Gradually forced by the environment, they eventually became slaves of the Chaos Gods, otherwise, they would not have survived. But now, their legend, the beast hunter Ulfric, has received a definite news, claiming that the never-ending storms of the northern Chaos Sea have been suppressed by the power of the gods. The broken land is now a fertile land. The future of the Norse-Kans will win true redemption here. Although this statement sounds very weird, the Norse-Kans are willing to believe these words. Large-scale tribes begin to move towards the broken lands, ready to explore. After the Norse expedition, there will be another turning point, and your civilization moment will be defined. At that time, you can name your faction independently. The turning point of your civilization has been anchored. Civilization event, the perfidious chivalrous expedition. The remnant of the expedition fleet has returned to Britannia. Knight Joshua has gradually spread your story, and the chivalrous expedition army is gathering. These people do not believe that the legend of the Holy Grail is true, nor do they recognize that the existence of the Holy Grail is the fruit that allows the Britannians to obtain the future. The chivalrous knights, who returned in embarrassment from the wrath of the sea, spread a poisonous message. They claim that the Holy Grail has been tainted by an evil wizard, and a sinful wizard king has appeared in the broken lands. The knights call on all knights to participate in this chivalrous expedition and completely crush this vicious enemy. The god of wisdom will decide to give you a variable. The god of war will decide to give you a war. The chivalrous expeditionary force is expected to expand to 8 to 9 times its original size. The chivalrous expeditionary force is expected to arrive in 1 to 2 months. The god of war and the god of wisdom will appear in large numbers within the chivalrous expeditionary force. They are inspired by the oracle. Please pay attention. After the event chain ends, you can create a monument for this event to commemorate the birth of your civilization. Tip: the current wonders exceed the cognitive concepts of all people in your civilization, so they cannot become a turning point for civilization. Please also improve the cultural level and appreciation level of the people. So the moment of civilization is not triggered by itself, but by certain units guided by its own decisions. And how many times do I have to urge this illiterate person? I don't want them to be illiterate, but his intelligence is like this. What can I do? Only these people can understand, such as war, death, walking, and down-to-earth construction. The great achievements created by these things can be regarded as turning points in the spirit of civilization. As for Leon's direct wonders, how should I put it? It's like 3 meteorites falling from the sky while you are walking, all of which are pure gold. It is visually shocking, but it is completely incomprehensible, and it is not considered as one's own credit. After all, it is impossible for a person to call down a meteor. Even if he worked personally, it was all the magic guided by Leon and the special alien technology from the test site. For the Norse people and the knights, there is no self-awareness at all. What they can recognize is this kind of migration for a better life and the idea of living normally. Relics such as the Holy Grail, the expeditions of the knights, and the struggles between wizards and demon hunters are the realities that these people living in ancient and medieval times can understand. After all, if it is an enemy, you kill him, and if it is your own people, you go together. Civilization and wonders are too broad for them. If you think about it carefully, it seems to be a problem of illiteracy. Leon thought about it and felt that it seemed to be caused by the lack of cultural level of these people. If he were not illiterate, everyone would be shocked and boastful that we built such a wonder together with the gods. Wouldn't the mixed punishment be gone? But it's not too late now. Looking at the Britannia font, Leon couldn't help but think of his other very useful identity. He is still a player and can get news from different channels. Of course, He can use different channels to spread certain accurate news more widely. Take the opportunity to go back and rest and do something. I think I still have a high-level identity. Leon thought about it and decided to make some choices. Chapter 36. A message from Britannia, in the Broken Lands. When the shabby ship of the chivalrous expedition returned, everyone in Cologne witnessed the tragic state of the ship. The ship, which was once full of streamers and colorful flags and looked like a fairy tale, was now covered with dirty blood. The cabins on the lower floor were full of serfs and knights squires who had been nailed to death and skinned. The navigator who was supposed to narrate had become a madman, and could only tell that an unimaginable horror had appeared in the north, turning their ship into such a bloody and terrifying appearance. The only person who was still sober was the Lord of the Knights, now the Knight of Vengeance Joshua. This once noble and elegant knight burst into tears after waking up, denouncing the knights and serfs on his ship for being bewitched and betrayed by a vicious spell, and claiming that the other party had maliciously defiled the Holy Grail in some way. The Holy Grail that once carried the glory of a goddess now serves the enemy. This made all the knights feel ashamed. Moreover, the divinations of the saints in the lake and the divination association, composed of many knights and noble ladies, all claimed that they had predicted that an unimaginable huge evil was spreading over the broken land in the north. Even the ladies in the spring pavilion were whispering about this news. In just a few days, the appeal for the chivalrous expedition had spread all over the streets and alleys of Goruni, demanding that a special expedition fleet be sent to make the cursed wizard suffer. Of course, because the Night King was leading his knights to curb the green tide spreading in the Badlands, the number of regular knights in the chivalrous expedition might not be large. However, many knights' followers, serfs, some practitioners in special industries, soldiers of the Blade Association and mysterious foreigners all announced that they would join this special chivalrous expedition. For the purity of the goddess Holy Grail, these strangers would sacrifice each other's lives. Under normal circumstances, the noble knights would definitely feel that there seemed to be some signs of uneasiness in this action. But now, the trial knights responsible for curbing the environment have followed a large army to curb the green tide. The remaining teams in the Night City of Cologne are all reserve knights from some places. All they can do is wait for the call or participate in the chivalrous expedition. This kind of thing is absolutely beneficial to these country knights who pursue honor and ideals. What's more, there are many people secretly fanning the flames. Even they are not native humans of this world. Hey, are you guys going to participate in the chivalrous expedition? The Earth Tavern in Cologne is a gathering place for players in Britannia. Wandering knight players wearing armor and ordinary players wearing leather or even linen clothes will be treated equally here. Because this is a very important place for information exchange, the players who act here are the leaders of well-known guilds or even player organizations in the outside forums. But now, they are discussing the topic of this chivalrous expedition fiercely in the tavern. Among them, the man who was dressed the most gorgeously and covered in golden armor knocked on the table and said in a muffled voice, "We must go, but that's the northern chaos sea of Norska. If something happens there, won't we really die?" Some time ago, I even heard that someone died inexplicably in the rainforest and couldn't be resurrected. So what? Can the rest of us just be serfs here forever? A disheveled player in sackcloth's bat, shrugged, and looked bored. Britannia looks like a good place, but it's impossible to cross the class. Serfs are serfs, knights are knights, and outsiders like us can't even get in. We can only rely on this kind of large-scale operations, but we are not considered locals in Britannia. What's the point of getting in? Didn't you read the forum? There is an unlucky guy in Norska on the forum who knows the situation over there. There are real land and people over there. What do you mean? Many eyes looked at the male player in sackcloth. The male player looked around, as if he was about to tell you some great plan. He subconsciously lowered his voice, looked at the players around him, and said slowly, "Drag some brothers with you. Even if this chivalrous expedition fails, we can still qualify as pioneer knights. By then, at the edge of the frozen sea, we can also boast that we have some connection with Britannia. It's also a talisman. After all, we players still have to have a city of our own to feel at ease. But the Norse border is too dangerous. With our abilities alone, I'm afraid we can't even withstand a roar beast. And you know how protective this damn place Britannia is. This is a token of allegiance. Looking at those players who seemed to have suddenly realized, this man who was obviously an agent of a certain First Guild player organization, smiled very proudly. Even if we gather a legion to help them, even if this mission fails, as long as we really contribute, Britannia will accept this favor. They will come even if they don't like it. The man in sackcloth looked at the knights and followers around him who looked good for you, and helped to calculate very seriously. Lone wolf players can be recognized as Britannians, and collective players have claims and knights. Even if they fail, there are benefits. And if they succeed, we will also be knight masters. We are even qualified to gather together to build a city in Britannia. Isn't this much better than Norska? As soon as the sackcloth player finished speaking, someone followed up. The knight in golden armor touched his helmet and said sullenly, "Are those knights really so stupid?" "Oh, that's right, it seems so stupid, otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to the Broken Lands with such fanfare." "Is that right?" "For us, the loss of manpower is not big, but the rewards are great, and maybe we can even whitewash our identities, so why not?" Singing in unison, telling crosstalk, other low-level guild players and leaders of medium-sized guilds looked at the two people's performance with squinted eyes. However, they didn't have much to say. It was already this time, the division of the territory was almost the same, and the old world was dominated by one company, so there was nothing to say. They could only watch them pretending. The knight in golden armor pretended to think and asked tentatively, "But is what the Norse player said true?" "True. I asked a few reincarnated Norse players, and the terrain and people match." The sackcloth player waved his hand and replied decisively, "Besides, isn't there a legend about a large Norse migration? They're heading there. Then we can find players there and ask the Norsemen to sell us some furs and bones and bargain for us. Wouldn't that mean we can make a lot of money?" "Oh, this looks like an opportunity to make a lot of money. Yeah, that sounds good." Seeing the two people pretending to settle the matter, the other players looked at each other, and no one wanted to be the first to do so. And a yawning young man sighed, propped up his chin and glanced at the two people who were talking about the double act. "What's the name of that Norse player? Is there any other guarantee?" "Laang, a Norse player with an official refugee certificate, certified by the Forum." Chapter 37 Territory Construction and Natural Wonders. The story of the tavern in Britannia was just one part of Leon's plan. He was very busy, although he was literally dying of exhaustion every day. He was still working hard. For the Arctic region, which was racing against time, a few days could bring about earth-shaking changes in the territory. Manipulating the flow of magic power all the time was also a huge mental burden for Leon. It would take a month for the system to naturally undergo large-scale changes. Leon didn't have that much time, so he had to do it himself. There were many things Leon had to do, such as gradually twisting the rugged peaks and canyons into plains, calming the originally irritable earth elements into a stable state, calling back the elements of nature on the coastline, and turning the originally cursed fish and chaotic ocean into a natural sea rich in nutrients and magic. And no one could help him. But for the serfs of Britannia, what they saw was a view that they would never dream of seeing in their lifetime, and it was impossible for them to see it. They watched the original wasteland turn into a swamp within a day, and then watched the pure black humus soil that was born after the swamp retreated. The rich life elements could stimulate the vitality of crops to the limit. Although it may not be as good as Britannia's own magical breeding of 4 crops a year, looking at the broken cracks in the sky, the serfs also believe that they are protected by the gods. Some serfs were even sent to work in the swamp area to screen and choose seeds and other things that can be used for farming in the swamp area. In addition to the extra knowledge of farming in their minds, there are some small details. Although it isn't this frozen land in the far north, the serfs still began to build some houses. They began to try to grow some crops on this vast land. This is what Leon asked them to do. There is no need to worry about the problem of insufficient water supply, because the controller of this area has the ability to control wind and rain. Just irrigate when needed. All they have to do is to follow the knowledge and instincts that emerge in their minds, Sow the grain seeds in their hands that have been re-irrigated by magic and brought by the knights, and then watch those plants sprout and take root overnight, and take good care of these plants. For the serfs, their shallow knowledge also understands that under this high-intensity magic irrigation, even if you don't look at the black soil, this will become a fertile land with rich products. In this way, the farmland will be ready. Looking at the endless fields in front of him, Liang nodded with satisfaction. In the observatory, through the high-altitude bird's-eye view, he has seen that on the large plain far away from the Vientiane labyrinth, hundreds of serfs have begun to leave the landing place and set up a gathering place around them. This place, called the God-given plain by the serfs, is the largest plain area in the Broken Land. There are only some small hills and cracks inside, which have been refilled by Liang's magic power. As for the farther mountains, Liang's current magic power is still unable to fill them directly. But for now, within the scope of the Stonehenge, this irregular large plain is probably enough for hundreds of thousands of people to live according to the current plan. Next is the mineral development of the territory and the initial construction of industrial facilities. It requires people. Looking at the various crystal-clear minerals and special prompts in his perspective, Liang manipulated his magic power to turn into drizzle while thinking about the future planning of the territory. Because after this territory survey, he found that the Broken Land is actually a rich mining area. There are 2 open-air high-quality iron ore areas and 1 copper mine. The estimated reserves are still unclear, but the Iron Mountain Range has appeared, so there is no need to worry about the reserves. There are dozens of other areas where the mineral materials cannot be identified due to unclear technology, and some industrial ruins brought by a series of former civilizations can also be used. There are 4 former civilization ruins suitable as outposts, and 2 industrial park sites. The previous expedition civilization has left Leon with a rich heritage of site selection. As for security, although those scattered demon armies will come in to make trouble, it is impossible to do so on a large scale. The demon army of the god of struggle has retreated from the edge. After all, being too close is like giving Leon magic and technology points for free. Only demons that have adapted to the environment can reach the range of Stonehenge. After a series of repairs and reconstructions, the knights from Bretonnia have begun to walk out of the protection range of Stonehenge through the offering of the Holy Grail, and launched the first round of attacks on the demon giant tree about 50 kilometers away. It can only be said that the results are remarkable. The demons there have no idea that humans can also attack demons in reverse. Under the rotten giant tree, the knights completed a massacre. With the death of 24 knights and the injury of 73, thousands of demons were sent into the void, and the swamp corruption was successfully performed around the tree, which was confined within the range. Now some Norscans are heading to the tree to build an outpost. If the rhythm is normal, Leon will soon get his second subsidiary outpost. There is a big population gap, but there are solutions to all these. In addition, Leon used his identity to lead the rhythm on the player side, and the news of the player's call and the information from Bretonnia were all in Leon's hands through the forum. There is no need for too much and too detailed so-called confidential information. The price and population flow cannot deceive people. The Great Migration from Norsca and the expedition from Bretonnia, Leon's civilization is destined to forge a real civilization characteristic in blood and fire, so that his civilization will officially appear in front of everyone. This may be bloody, but this is also a necessary rhythm. Tip: your Norscan outpost has been built. You have already mastered a natural wonder. Planet level natural wonder, corrupted oak of life. This wonder has a variety of forms to choose from. You can use magic manipulation or various means to change the form of the oak of life, and freely choose the bonus you want. In the observatory, Leon, who was floating weightlessly in the endless magic network, looked at the system prompt and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Maybe there won't be a lot of casualties? After all, this planetary wonder may be more powerful than he imagined. Blinking his eyes and looking at the series of choices brought to him by the miracle of life, the smile on Leon's face became more and more intense. Sorry, I'll make up for it with 4 more chapters tonight. The purely setting chapter is not very good. Sorry everyone. Chapter 38, Oak of Ages, Path of Life. Planetary wonder, corrupted Oak of Ages, completely corrupted. There are many theories about the source of life on this planet, but quite a few elves believe that the Oak of Ages is the source of life. This huge tree is the size of a city. This life is so huge that it even has its own ecosystem. But most people don't know that the huge Oak of Ages is not only in the Ethel-Loran forest. There used to be several of these oaks in the world, but they were gradually destroyed in the replacement of civilizations. And now, you have found the one that you can't find the most. The Oak of Ages symbolizes corrupted life. Under the wind of chaos, this Oak of Ages has long been twisted and deteriorated. However, there is still a glimmer of hope. Features, non-chaos populations or dark god worship populations will get the negative effect life howling, and there is a certain probability that the unit will fall into a state of loss of appetite each round. After this state accumulates 3 times, the population unit will become a corrupt beast and begin to attack your territory. Provide jobs for up to 3,000 people, and you can choose to cut down trees or maintain the ecosystem to pick fruits. Choosing to cut down trees will bring 5 points of productivity and 1 point of magic power per turn. Maintaining the ecosystem will bring 4 points of food and 1 point of magic power per turn. Please note that choosing to cut down trees will bring unpredictable results. Current state, corrupted by chaos. Optional items, purification. Use 100,000 points of magic power units for pure purification, and radiate the vitality of the Oak of Ages. Corrosion. Use dangerous technology to completely erode the Oak of Ages. This action will greatly advance the composition of your nation and push it into the ranks of the dark gods. Rot. Immediately use the corruption temple to rot and erode the giant tree to maintain the cycle of life and death. This operation will purify the Oak of Ages to a certain extent and allow you to obtain the path of life. But please note that no one will like this ugly posture. No need to obtain from those abnormal psychic consciousness bodies. The combination of planetary wonders or artificial wonders can also create various paths. It's another new direction of development. Floating in the observatory, Leon looked at the structure of the huge Oak of Ages, with a slightly thoughtful expression on his face. Just like the information provided by the players, this huge oak tree is even bigger than imagined, and even the camp of those demons is just the part where the roots of this huge tree are rotten. In more places, some sour and unbearable fruits are hung, and the leaves look as black as ink. At first glance, the strange structure and some unsettling black trunks that seem to be symbols of failure. This huge tree covers an area even larger than the place where Leon landed. It looks like a small mountain standing on the chaotic wasteland. Its huge vitality itself forms a magical structure similar to a shelter, which makes the originally violent chaos storm around it much more stable. If the Norska outpost can really be turned into a gathering place, I believe this huge tree can provide considerable help. At least there is no shortage of food and productivity. After all, according to ancient legends, the huge canopy of nearly a kilometer high can even accommodate several native civilized countries to fight each other. But what Leon values is not these things, but the results he got from his own prompts. Depending on the technology, the wonders you have are different, and the prompts you get are completely different. Is this because my own knowledge reserves and cognition have improved, and the system has extended more options? He clicked the third one without hesitation, and watched the disgusting green mist that began to flow in the swamp gradually envelop the Oak of Ages, and Leon fell into deep thought. The huge, unimaginable vitality is feeding back into Leon's body from the swamp. Even outside the Stonehenge, this huge and unimaginable giant tree still has a considerable degree of order. After the vitality is stimulated, it cooperates with the corruption temple's breath full of festering vitality and wisdom, and even spreads the green mist of active defense around it. Some wriggling white flesh began to roll up in the swamp. These are the tentacles of the power of the corruption temple. They began to have an ugly intercourse with the Oak of Ages, and layers of withered yellow breath covered the giant tree. If it weren't for the certain information in my mind at the beginning, and I couldn't feel any chaotic breath, I'm afraid the knights would have screamed and fled by now. But now they just looked at everything around them in surprise, whispering to each other, But they didn't have too many thoughts about this terrible decay. After all, to be honest, this black giant tree was not a good thing in the eyes of the knights. It was like throwing some ugly things into the trash can. This behavior made the knights with very firm beliefs find reasons to convince themselves. And soon, under Leon's will, the squirming white corrupt thing began to absorb the black chaos fragments on the trunk. In the cycle of life and death decay, the so-called immortal chaos pollution also quickly dried up and turned gray, revealing the rotten body inside the giant tree. This giant tree began to radiate a kind of uncomfortable vitality, and the gray-black shell on its body began to disintegrate and disintegrate, allowing layers of light green and pale green secretions to spread around. As the green fluorescence began to spread from the upper layer of the tree canopy, and the strange sound of mucus rubbing against each other began to resound around, under the horrified gaze of all the knights and Norsecans, the branches of the corrupted temple poured into the roots of the giant tree, leaking a dark green swamp smell. Corruption success. Apostrophe You have obtained the corrupted Oak of Ages. Apostrophe The negative characteristics of the Oak of Ages have been repaired. As the Lord of the Oak, you will receive the 2 talents of Oak Wisdom and Rotten Self-Healing. All residents of your faction will receive the blessing of Rotten Self-Healing. Apostrophe Oak Wisdom. Those who possess the Oak of Ages are often wise men who transcend the ages. All research point requirements are reduced by 15%. Apostrophe Rotten Self-Healing. The Oak of Ages is originally a symbol of vitality, and the weirdness and order superposition brought by the corrupted temple have made the vitality of the Oak of Ages abnormally exerted. You will not have a fatal weakness unless your head is chopped off or your soul is taken away. Your recovery ability is accelerated by 300%, and you will carry an unpleasant stench when you recover. Apostrophe Very strong. Very strong. It is worthy of being a planet level wonder. It just feels different. Although it is a bit ugly and disgusting, there is no need to worry too much. Liang feels that he should be able to figure out the subsequent life operation technology soon, and changing the appearance is not a problem. The main thing is to get the technology and wonders first and make do with them. After all, what Liang cares more about is the dangerous technology that appears in front of him with a large increase in the progress bar. So what you need is the status quo. Chapter 39 Take your destiny into your own hands. In Leon's sight, as his magic knowledge and understanding of chaos deepened, his path in forbidden magic technology almost leaped forward. As the Oak of Ages was completely corrupted, Leon saw from high above that the giant tree, like a mountain range, was eroded, and finally glowed with a weird green crown sap. He realized that those broken chaos concepts were quickly absorbed by his power. In this world, only Leon has the power of the Corruption Temple, and the Corruption Temple is inserted, and the things taken away can also only be taken away by Leon. So he understood the progress of his magic. Demons are a phenomenon, and killing them can get technology and magic points. However, the phenomenon of chaos erosion itself is also a phenomenon. As long as the conversion method is appropriate, this concept itself can be turned into technology and magic points. This magical wind blowing on the chaotic wasteland is more like technology points and magic points flying all over the sky in Leon's eyes. But he is just a corrupt lord and has no ability to get those things. But based on this, Leon started his own thinking. In other words, these things should be just a phenomenon in nature, not their characteristics. Is it because these phenomena and requirements themselves are aggregated that the 4 individuals who claim to be gods were born? Looking at the rotten oak of the era, Leon expressionlessly separated some of his knowledge from his impression and threw it into the swamp. Then he saw a festering demon crawling out of the corrupt swamp. Knowledge is poisonous. After taking away the knowledge of the howling demon, Leon looked at the panel of dangerous technology and made his own judgment. It is too early to turn against the so-called Chaos God. Leon needs more people, more pioneers, and more regions to extend his sphere of influence to further places. And these 4 have been rooted in this world for too long. So long that the players don't know how long it has been, or in the distant past, when Leon didn't know when. The wailing and desire of countless people in this world forged these 4 twisted so-called gods. When they were causing trouble for him, Leon still remembered it. More than 100 blood eagles, the initial demon army, and the combat troops that must be maintained now. All of these are major blows to Leon's initial development. He wants to take his fate into his own hands, rather than relying on the so-called tokens or gifts of the gods. However, since he has obtained the path of life, he must first look at the status of himself and the city. Only the last of the four major paths, joy, has not been obtained, but Leon has already had some clues. Perhaps the difference between technology and gods, faith and magic is not particularly large in this world. He can wait for the right opportunity, and then use the population to strengthen his image and create his own path of joy. After reinfusing the vitality purified by the corrupted temple into his body to stay alive, Leon continued to float in the air of the observatory, checking the status of himself and civilization without sleep. Player, Liang status, near death. Wind of magic continues to live, vitality continues to infuse. Physical stats, strength, 4, magic power increased, constitution, 20, magic power increased, vitality infusion, agility, 4, magic power increased, perception, 20, magic power increased, corruption infusion, magic manipulation limit, none talents, communication mastery, magic manipulation, arcane body, eye of ritual, intimidation will, wisdom of decay, supreme wisdom, oak wisdom, corruption self-healing. Hint: you have noticed that many skills and abilities have a certain correlation. Perhaps you can use a special ritual to enhance your life essence. This will be an ascension event. Skills, none evaluation. If you let your servant Ulfric try to kill you 10 meters away from you, you will definitely die. But what appears after you die? Ulfric will definitely not be able to resist. Life and death are just a transition state for you now. You may still lack an opportunity. You need to make up your mind. Very normal values. Nothing unexpected. Liang knew that according to his sudden death level of work intensity, sooner or later he would need magic and vitality to hang on. These parts can be glanced at, but the important thing is the next city panel. City, land of Descent. City population, 2,447, Norse migration. City area, God-given plains, giant tree outpost, experimental area. Cultural level, illiterate status, trust, fanaticism. Geographical location, Northern Chaos Sea, broken land. Technology age, classical. Current productivity, 1771, swampland, experimental area. Blessing, current food, 2,462, age oak. Blessing, current technology, 1,624, supreme wisdom, decayed wisdom, Vientiane labyrinth. Blessing, current culture, 6, cultural director, Holy Grail, current faith, magic, 1,421, Stonehenge, experimental area, God's worship. Characteristics. Blessing, city evaluation, an impossible city built on wonders. Its establishment, extension, and expansion are all the credit of wonders. However, these wonders can become nails that penetrate into the chaos wasteland and open up impossible roads for later generations. There are still not enough people. Not enough people. People. Give me more people. Give me more power. Otherwise, when can we go to the starry sky? How long do we have to stay on the planet? Lying in the void of the observatory, Leon looked at the 2 moons hanging high in the sky, looked at the pure white planet, and slowly stretched out his palm to hold the outline of the ivory. The result of long-term manipulation of unimaginable huge magic power and prying the magic wind of the entire region is that the outline of the palm even has cracks that are not like those of humans. The light blue magic wind flows on the body and even replaces part of the body function of the blood. Leon stared at the full moon in his palm, slowly closed his eyes, and breathed a sigh of relief. When will it come? Chivalrous expedition, my high-quality population is waiting for you. Leon slowly closed his eyes and chose the almost black technology option. Do you choose to study interlaced technology, introduction to magic substances? The prerequisites for this technology are: emotion is void, any path, magic manipulation, mysticism, mathematics, rational thinking or wisdom path, cannot overlap with any path conditions. This technology is a special technology and may bring special results and extensions. Please choose carefully. Emotion is void. Void is existence. Existence is will is the world. Subsequent extension theory, genetic theory, abnormal technology, prerequisites, cannot be calculated. Required points, planetary units cannot be calculated. Chapter 40 The need for a chivalrous expedition. Cologne. The origin of the chivalrous expedition in the Chaos Wasteland. Fighting the Green Tide took away all the splendor of the capital of the Night Country. Those great and noble knights closed the purest white castle, took their horses and top followers, and launched a raid on the Badlands with triumphant songs. The foundation of Britannia is the chivalrous spirit of knights. The strong protect the weak and resist all dangers and hardships outside the country. But this also means that once the real army of Britannia begins to travel far away, most of the remaining garrisons in the Night Country are old, weak, sick and disabled, and are some knights who are not worthy of the name of knights and can only appease their hearts in groups. They are not qualified to participate in the war against the Green Tide, but they call themselves knights, so they can only patrol within the territory of Britannia, appease the people, and find various opportunities to atone for their sins. That is the chivalrous expedition that often appears in Britannia. The expedition in the name of knights is not only to show their own chivalry, but also a ladder for Britannia to be promoted. Those truly great knights only need to show their brilliance in competitions and on the battlefield. However, the chivalrous war selects those war knights who can only be born under continuous wars and strong desires. Therefore, every chivalrous expedition will have many lower-level knights who are eager to respond to the call. Although they should be collapsed with one blow, facing the formal, blessed and glorious knight army, they may be overwhelmed with one blow, but their spirit and enthusiasm will never fail. No one likes to wear the title of a coward on their head, and no one wants their reputation to fall to that level. Therefore, the chivalrous war often takes away countless civilians and serfs, as well as the battlefields of lower-level knights. For Britannia, which is blessed by the goddess of the lake, even if the tax is 9 out of 10, the serfs can use materials to support countless heirs. In a sense, this is also the normal metabolism of Britannia and a necessary link in this country. Now, the chivalrous war against the Broken Lands has begun, and heroes from all over the world are ready to fight. They have arrived in Cologne with their serfs and supplies, ready to participate in this chivalrous expedition against the Chaos Wasteland, to conquer the Witch King of Chaos. The reputation of this chivalrous war is no worse than fighting the Green Tide. In fact, to a certain extent, this belief and loyalty are even more legitimate. This also makes the entire chivalrous expedition fleet seem to be a little abnormally inflated, including far more than Britannia. Just like now, even some dangerous activities cannot get the rewards they deserve in the capital of this country of knights. Here's your reward for cleaning up the polluted burn outside the city. A total of 13 silver coins. 13 silver coins? The blood-stained player looked at the fat merchant in front of him in disbelief, pointed at his torn clothes and burn marks, and shouted in front of the store, "We found a bloodletting vampire with disabled legs in the barn. We fought hard to defeat it. 14 of our brothers died just to let me chop off his head. Now you are using 13 silver coins to humiliate us? That's 14 lives." The pedestrians coming and going around looked at the player who was covered in dirt and screaming miserably, and looked at the shop owner with some dissatisfaction. The extension of the dissatisfaction was not because of pity or sympathy, but because the boss did not handle the problem well. Looking at the eyes of his neighbors, the shop owner clicked his tongue and raised a finger. "Then I'll give you 2 more silver coins. 1 more silver coin and 28 copper coins, otherwise we can't calculate." "Okay, take it. Get out of here." "Okay, I wish you a prosperous business." As if he was not the same person at all, the guy who had just been kneeling on the ground and crying miserably, as if he wanted to show some kind of brotherhood of life and death, immediately took the money bag thrown by the boss impatiently with a smile and left happily. And this kind of thing has gradually become a common thing in Cologne. Players, these fearless, nimble, and fragile guys, don't know when they started to use their wonderful channels to get the news of the chivalrous expedition. These guys, like the Ratman in the legend, began to invade the streets and alleys of Cologne, asking door to door if there was anything they needed help with or what they needed to do. And although the players are not in good health, they are fearless, not afraid of dirt or tiredness, and have considerable subjective initiative. So Cologne didn't have much doubt and listed these strange lives as normal objects. After all, there are so many seemingly undead things in this world, such as undead magic, constructs, elemental creatures, consciousness aggregates, demons, and natural incarnations. One more player is nothing. And although there are many players, compared with the elemental creatures that were everywhere during the elemental disaster, the performance of the players can be regarded as a model of undead creatures. They are easily suppressed if they are slightly dangerous, and are considered by the Bretonians to be a subordinate race similar to serfs. It's just that sometimes they don't know what's good for them. However, most of the players don't care about the disgusted expressions of the merchants, but blow the silver coins, put the copper coins in their pockets, and then hum a little song and walk to a chaotic block, open a secret door and go down. With the warm and humid air and the noisy roaring sound, the gathering place of the players also appeared in front of this person, which made him smile. "Hey, is business good today?" "Yeah, we ran into a demon vampire in the barn, but luckily he was stuck in the portal and was resurrected by us. Otherwise, we might have lost money on this event." The male player didn't show any signs of crying and shouting in anger just now. After counting the 14 silver coins, he handed them to the auditor in front of him without changing his expression. "Here, 14 silver coins. There are 14 of us brothers, 1 silver coin each, and we will record them all on the magic bill when the time comes. Are you planning to collect some supplies to participate in the chivalrous expedition?" A few silver coins are not enough. After recording it in the magic book, the player who looked like a bartender glanced at the dirty player in front of him and sneered. "The prices of supplies have gone up again. The basic guarantee requirement for a cabin spot on the chivalrous expedition has risen to 74 silver coins, and it may go up in the future. Your current guarantee amount is a bit insufficient." Why has the price gone up again?" "It's so expensive to get a cabin spot." "You think it's expensive, but I think it's expensive too. Don't you think that this is the first big event that us players have been able to participate in 3 years? We all pooled our money to buy the ship, so how can we let you on board without charging you?" Looking at the muttering players, the bartender rolled his eyes and said as a matter of course. Chapter 41 Choice. Once the players unite, the power they can mobilize is also very powerful. Emperor Hammer Cruiser, Skyfall Cruiser, Barracuda Battle Barge, Will Battle Barge, Rotten Corpse Battle Barge, Sacred Skull Battle Barge, a strike fleet consisting of 2 cruisers and 4 battle barges. There are also more than 100 unsecured modified ships traveling with the team. This is the largest fleet that the players' first guild can take out with certain official support, because there is no goddess or magic to protect, and the figurehead does not recognize the reason. The player's fleet can be said to be broken at the first touch compared to other fleets in the chivalrous expedition, and there is no real combat power. However, a total of 360 artillery and a series of material supplies are still necessary for the fleet, and for the mages of the Wisdom Tower who do not know why they support this chivalrous expedition, it is not a problem to include these fleets in the joint casting range. Players are quickly integrating into this world and developing as if they are local residents. Everything is moving in a good direction. Whether it was the supplies that were continuously sent from the far west or even outside the old world, or the gossips transmitted in the streets and alleys, or the whispers produced in the special occasions of the purple mist, everyone seemed to be shrouded in a kind of enthusiasm. The chivalrous war must be carried out, and it must even be the most powerful and populous chivalrous war in history. The supplies transported even exceeded the amount of 160 dock warehouses, and the sponsoring fleet that followed reached the level of 21 medium and large ships alone. Even the legendary sea battleship, the battleship Knight's Glory, which once fought against the 3 battleships of the vampire pirates and did not lose the wind, will be dispatched as the flagship of this chivalrous war. With the help of many parties, the scale of this chivalrous war is unprecedented. Players, humans, elves, dwarves, the Empire, and even the Tyrolls and border princes far to the south, and even further away, have gradually heard of the greatness of this chivalrous war. They all know that a supernatural gap has appeared in the Arctic region, and the power of the Chaos Gods does not seem to be effective there. A strange, even weird wizard has occupied the Broken Lands, and is using powerful magic to modify the local terrain. According to common sense, such a powerful wizard should be a well-known individual in history, but everyone checked their family tree and never saw such a person in their 8 generations. In the end, they could only conclude that it might be a stowaway from other large areas. Let the strange stowaway experience the enthusiasm of the local people. The major forces did not have any special ideas about this. It was just another daily chaos in the old world. The scale of the fight was not as large as the Empire in Brittany. It joined forces to fight the Green Tide. At least 3 more dwarf fortresses in the Badlands were destroyed, and the Longbeards were so angry that they wanted to send rune craftsmen to give the Greenskins a big fight. And not only that, as the vampire pirates became more and more fierce, large-scale naval battles broke out around the Elf Forever Meat Island. There were double-digit levels of battleships alone, and even super battleships appeared. Compared to the inexplicable chivalrous war in the Broken Land, it is obvious that the fight against the Green Tide in the Badland and the sea battle around the ever-gathering island are more lively. But this is just the world's view. For the parties involved, or for a certain party in the chivalrous war, this kind of pressure is simply torture and pain that normal people can hardly imagine! Joshua woke up from the nightmare again, opened his eyes suddenly, and looked at the ceiling above his head with sweat. The purple gems dotted in the first-class ecstasy courtyard of Cologne seemed to be reflecting his pale face. It's a big deal, it's a big deal. Joshua wiped the sweat from his face, and his heart made a short and rapid roar. He didn't think of this, he just wanted to pass on the blame. Really, Joshua swore to the sky, at the beginning, he just wanted to make up a reason for his escape. He killed his nephew who questioned him, slaughtered all the wavering knights in the cabin, and even killed all the serfs who didn't know about it under the cabin. Even Joshua himself couldn't remember how he managed to get such a big ship back to Cologne. Was it the tide, or something else? What was the result of this chivalrous expedition? What was the end? I should tell them. I should confess my sins. Looking at the purple gem with a crack on his head, Joshua hesitated in his heart. I don't know why I was possessed by the devil and killed everyone, making myself the only witness. I should tell them. I should have been an upright knight, and I should have won the victory with my sword and honor. Why did I become like this, my lord? But at this moment, a white and smooth arm wrapped around from behind like a snake. A light laugh came in his ear. You are a hero who discovered the evil wizard. When the Night King was still resisting the Green Tide in the south, you discovered traces of true evil, so you summoned everyone to fight. Isn't this a great thing? I am a hero? A touch of purple mist lingered in the incense burner, and the originally clear consciousness seemed to blur. He felt that this touch of purple fragrance seemed to be familiar. In the incense burner of his fleet, when he was madly killing all the servants, and when he was desperate to die, this touch of purple seemed to exist in the corner. Of course, my dear hero. In the girl's lavender blurred eyes, Joshua's eyes seemed to be scattered and blurred. Am I wrong? Am I really wrong? I am not wrong. If I was wrong, why would I be here? How many people can admit their own incompetence and weakness? The girl lowered her head and whispered, it must be uncomfortable to leave that terrible world. My lord, you see, your dignity is ashamed, but I think this is greater courage and honor, right? So, let us immerse ourselves in this happiness. Let us walk towards the other side of chivalry in the blessing of laughter and honor. You see, I'm already like this. The purple-eyed woman laughed. Along with Joshua's low roar and the woman's soft laughter, the incense burner crackled, bringing a burst of charming fragrance. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Blocked Migration. For the entire chaotic old world, An unprecedented chivalrous expedition may be a big deal for the local factions, but for the entire old world, it is a trivial matter without any shaking, because there is no time when there is no fighting in this ghost place. Even many scholars have seriously thought about it and think that the population of each population may be refreshed. Otherwise, why can they support wars that have lasted for who knows how many years, and then they are still alive and well, and even have the time to send various expeditions and colonists to carry out meaningless interference in various places? But generally speaking, the living conditions of the Norse people can give people an answer. Simply put, the poorer you are, the more you give birth, and the more you give birth, the poorer you are. If you really can't survive, you go to God. Anyway, under the power of the gods, it is not a problem for a mother to turn into 100 or 80 offspring. As for what you said about chaos pollution, we will talk about it later. In short, only with manpower can we solve everything behind. According to the living standards and cultural status of the Norse people, it can basically explain why all races in the world seem to always live in bitterness and hatred, and can also turn into various populations, because the women in those groups are basically either giving birth or on the way to giving birth, and rarely appear outside. Only a few unique groups or groups that have been deeply rooted in the old world and will not have any problems in ordinary wars can allow women to come out alone. Otherwise, reproduction will always be the top priority of the group, and for the poorer the place, the more intuitive this desire is. The most typical thing is that women will obey the most powerful warriors, and then sleep with them, eager to leave the strongest offspring. Including today, it should be the 40th. I don't know what the migration has become. Looking at the tired woman sleeping beside him and the traces of dirt in the room, Ulfric scratched his head. So when Ulfric began to enter the sage time and think about the meaning of life, it was already the 7th day since he entered the frozen sea. During these 7 days, in order to maximize the reputation of his great master, he chose some methods that Leon might not like, but were very Norse. In simple terms, he carried the head of the high priest who had turned into a bird-headed monster and whose head he had chopped off, and hung it on the bow of the ship. He used the simple enchantment method of the Norse to ask his soul to serve him, otherwise he would be sent to feed the Stonehenge. Under such an effective threat, the high priest chose to obey from the bottom of his heart. He knew too well how terrible the most primitive ritual manipulated by that terrible guy was. That was the ritual array constructed with the most primitive ideas when intelligent life began to have cognition and logic. It was a crazy creation that theoretically could not exist in this world. Stonehenge did not bring the first profit, but the most primitive destruction. When intelligent creatures first began to desire something, they always pursued the destruction of the enemy, not their own survival, because they could not even understand the concept of life and death, and what they sought was the most complete destruction. So the old man was scared and hung on the Viking longship as a figurehead. With the help of the power of the head of the god of Tsinge, Ulfric was able to visit the major Norse tribes around the frozen sea in a short period of time. Ulfric's choice was also simple. First, take the longboat and use the space ability of the old priest's head to rush over directly, and then announce that he came for the great son of the star, Leon, the ruler of the broken land. Let them go to a better place to live. If the other party knows about you and wants to live a good life, then you are good, I am good, and everyone is good. If not, then propose a duel between the most primitive strong men in Norska. As long as you become the chief, won't you be able to order everyone to go there? Ulfric felt that he was simply a genius. As for things like betraying Leon, Ulfric had never thought about it, even if the bird-headed man was sweet-talking at the time. In fact, Ulfric was thinking about whether to go back for help or let Leon come to see it in person. As Ulfric personally built Stonehenge and witnessed many wonders and changes in celestial phenomena, he believed that Leon was not a human being, especially when Ulfric felt that his head and body seemed to be blessed by the breath of life. This simple Norse Ken had realized that his master might have done a lot of things in succession. Let him, a younger brother and servant, also benefit a lot. Even the scar left by the last duel with someone, now seems to have completely healed. I don't know why it smells a bit, maybe it's because he didn't take a shower. Ulfric sniffed, stood up from the bed and began to put on his clothes. The woman lying on the bed was also awakened by the sound. She opened her eyes sleepily and looked at Ulfric in front of her with a dazed look. "Lord Ulfric, do you still need me to serve you?" "No, you can just follow my orders and go to the Broken Land." After tying his belt, Ulfric's voice became firmer. "I am following the oracle." "Ah, no, it is the order of our Lord, to let you live a good life. Now I am your chief, you just follow me." "But, Lord," looking at Ulfric, who was dressed neatly and was about to leave, this woman who had a fleeting love affair and was also the daughter of the local chief bit her lip, looked at the majestic legendary warrior with bright eyes, and whispered their distress. "We women, and the Norse leaders, will not be able to pass through the Siren Sea in the near future." Ulfric put on his leather armor and was stunned when he heard this. "What the hell are you talking about? What do you mean there is no way to get through the Siren Sea?" "Because in recent months, unknown monsters have awakened in the Siren Sea and are attacking our ships. Even if we want to go through, we can only move along the coastline. There is no way to get there quickly." The woman pulled the fur to cover her bruised body, looked at the mighty and majestic man in front of her and said softly, "As for along the coastline, the Chaos Gods have issued an oracle that it is a forbidden place and absolutely no passage is allowed. There are even their watchtowers and fortresses on the edge of the coastline. For us, it is impossible to pass through those fortresses and checkpoints." "Then why didn't I see anything when I came here?" "Is it possible that Ulfric and the adventurers are too powerful, so they dare not show up?" Glancing at the inscriptions and marks that kept appearing on Ulfric's body due to his emotions, the woman who looked quite pretty flashed a hint of envy in her eyes, and said softly. Chapter 43, Giant Beast Hunter. Without hesitation, Ulfric took the woman out to sea, heading for the Siren Sea to kill the monster. He did not bring his own soldiers, but instead asked a group of old, weak, women and children to board the ship, ready to use disguises to deceive the monster's not very sensitive perception. As a Norse can who had witnessed the cruelty of the dark gods and the power of Leon, Ulfric knew very well. Although Leon did not say it, Ulfric knew too well what the consequences would be if he did not treat people as human beings. Ulfric had not forgotten the Dark Factory assembly line. Now something has blocked Leon's plan, and what Ulfric has to do is to clear this thing and make the plan go smoothly. As for saying that Leon is a good person, so there is no need to worry about anything, Ulfric does not believe it. Ulfric has seen the moodiness of the dark gods, and that is why he has awe in his heart for Leon, who keeps restraint. If Leon doesn't restrain himself, what can a god with a body in reality do? Good people should not be pointed at with guns, otherwise they will do something afterwards. So Ulfric decided to kill the guy who affected his performance. Right here? Yes. Looking at the vast ocean full of fog in front of her and the clearly defined boundary of the sea water, the sapphire eyes of the chief's daughter were full of fear of the unknown. They had tried to sail along the edge of the coastline before, and as they said, the Norse tribe who believed in the Chaos Gods had built a fortress on the edge of the coast, and when they saw the ships, they did not try to attack them, but just fired fireballs and arrows from there, making it impossible for them to sail along the coastline. There were some who believed in the blood god howling and trying to rush up, but often people from other chaos tribes would appear behind them to pull them back. Although they believed in the Chaos Gods, they were not stupid. In terms of obeying the oracle, they had their own so-called smart choices. It was like the Norse who came out of the Broken Land. Everyone had a sacred mark on their body, and the wound in the sky of that place was still vivid. Only fanatics would rush over to execute the so-called secret order, but such people often rushed to the battlefields of Kislev and Prague, and it was not the turn of these guys in the ravines to execute, but it was also an objective fact that there was no way to sail along the coastline. They could only take a boat of the elderly, weak, women and children and start to move towards the Siren Sea in the middle of the frozen sea. What a group of sneaky people who bully the weak and fear the strong. I brought a group of soldiers here, and you didn't even dare to fart. How come you all came out as soon as I left? Looking at the foggy Siren Sea, Ulfric looked at the women, children, and the elderly who were trembling with fear behind him, and a trace of disdain flashed across his face. But it's okay, Take the opportunity to kill them all. Squinting his eyes and staring at the foggy sea, Ulfric held his breath, listening to the surrounding magical winds and the revelations given by nature. Before, some information seemed to flash through Ulfric's mind again, just like the various wisdoms that Leon had given before. All kinds of knowledge flashed through Ulfric's mind. However, this time it was slightly different from other production and agricultural knowledge. In his mind, there emerged how to systematically operate the wisdom, struggle, and life imprint abilities on himself, how to stimulate his vitality, how to improve his judgment, how to strengthen his fighting ability, and a series of spell-like abilities flashed through Ulfric's mind. Among them was the ability to use the power of life to explore the surrounding living things for perception. This was the result of the general theory of magic research. Although Ulfric had no idea what the hell the general theory of magic research was, looking at the foggy sea, Ulfric's mind moved slightly, and the shining imprints and runes on his body gradually disappeared into the flesh and blood, without any abnormal state. He looked like an ordinary person without any ability. He deliberately wore a hood and leather to cover the smell on his body, and made some arrangements to make himself look like an Old Norse kind pilot. As expected, as the preparations progressed, the originally calm Siren Sea began to move a little. A subtle existence, was slowly moving under the dark water. The cunning senses detected that another boatload of young women and children had been sent up, as well as an unknown man who was leading the way. But it didn't matter. Although he had just woken up, it was his good habit not to be picky about food. Before, he felt that he couldn't beat the people on that boat, and the power on them was a bit scary, so he stayed away from them. But I didn't expect that there would be so much food delivered to the door one by one. Excuse me, I need to eat. The monster lurking in the sea squinted its eyes and opened its big mouth, ready to jump out of the ocean and swallow the women and children on the entire dragon boat in one gulp with its favorite jumping and swallowing posture. But at the moment it jumped out of the sea, he saw the red-bearded man on the dragon boat holding a broken iron sword with a red shadow. In anger, seeing the figure jumping out of the sea, he immediately raised the weapon in his hand and roared, shaking the entire Siren Sea. "How dare you, a lowly beast, stop the great cause of the adults? How dare you stop my achievements?" Ulfric roared, and his body was almost burning with 3 different colors of brilliance. He seemed to instinctively understand how to use 3 different characteristics in battle to help him hunt the beast. The red light made a long sword in his hand seem to have some unusual illumination. The invisible blade accompanied Ulfric's sword swinging down, and even instantly cut a huge crack in the lower body of the siren in midair. The huge siren screamed in fear because of the injury. The terrifying body of at least more than 30 feet rolled in the ocean, wanting to madly retaliate against Ulfric who attacked it. But when the blue light appeared, he and the entire dragon boat would instantly disappear into the air, and then dodge the roaring attack of the monster and appear behind. This kind of operation should be extremely tiring. But the green light made him energetic in the blink of an eye. He seemed to have merged with his life as a monster hunter, instinctively controlling these powers and turning them into a better trump card to hurt the monster. Looking at the monster's defenseless back, Ulfric grinned and swung his sword again. And the red mist flashed, and the tattered longsword in his hand seemed to instantly turn into a chainsaw blade, tearing the skin and internal organs of the siren again amid the siren's painful screams. Just as Ulfric was about to jump off the dragon boat and kill the monster directly, he suddenly felt that the wind of magic conveyed something strange to him. In the waves of the sea and in the mist, there seemed to be some inhuman existence. Just as Ulfric looked in the direction of the source of the perception and confusion, an arrogant and angry voice sounded from the fog. "Savage over there, stop now. You are hurting the offspring of the sea god Marslan." Marslan? Who? The illiterate Ulfric was unsure of the arrogant voice. He just held the sword in his hand with some doubts and shouted at the source of the voice, "Let others do the work, shouldn't you come out first?" Chapter 44. The ocean elves have hatred of you. The fog began to disperse. This fog, which has long been regarded as a natural phenomenon on the Sea of Sirens, seemed to have life and was controlled by a will. It spread out from the middle, revealing 2 noble figures. A flying boat that was somewhat similar to the dragon boat of Norska, but completely different, was floating on the water. Two elves who looked completely different from normal elves, with more ocean and sky blue patterns, were holding a talisman that flashed white light and glared at the giant hunter in front of them. When the talisman flashed, the monster under the giant hunter's feet trembled and seemed to make a cry of grievance. Hearing the dull sound, the two elves were even more angry, and their faces were gloomy as if dripping with water. "How dare you! How dare you put such a sacred beast to death?" The female elf holding the talisman seemed to be listening to something and looked at Ulfric with hatred. "What a rude and despicable barbarian! Don't you realize that the sacred beast in front of you is just eating? But this damn thing blocked our way. It even ate our people." Looking at the angry elves, Ulfric spat and replied with disdain, "Since you're the owner of this monster, you should know why I came here. This damn thing has killed many people. You should thank me. It's just a few inferior women and living things. As the pet of the sea god, Tranor only needs to eat hundreds to thousands of you women to protect you from being blocked in the ocean forever, and you are ungrateful and plan to kill the sacred beast." The elf kept drawing talismans in the air, as if communicating with the wailing beast under Ulfric's feet, and looked at the barbarian in front of him with resentment. The weapon in his hand, which was flowing with blood and red light, and seemed to be barbaric and terrifying, was the culprit that caused the sacred beast to weaken and even be unable to move. The elves were somewhat familiar with the marks and energy lingering on Ulfric, but they were not sure whether it was the power of their nemesis. And from Ulfric's performance, he did not seem to be crazy. However, the elves still had their own considerations and ideas. To them, humans might have a higher status than the reptiles on Nevermeet, but that was all, because they had no courage, no ability, and would even kneel down and beg for mercy when they saw the elves, and would only be terrified when facing natural disasters. The two elves looked at each other, and after using talismans to discuss with the giant beast in the ocean, they quickly reached a conclusion. "For the sake of your ignorance, primitive man." The male elf, wearing elven armor and amulets, holding a silver sword, pointed at Ulfric arrogantly. "Put down your weapons, remove the curse you have placed on the sacred beast, then let your blood and the people behind you feed the great Trano. Sacrifice another 3,000 people, and we will forgive your outrageous behavior." "Oh, 3,000 people? I have never seen such an arrogant guy in my life." Ulfric leaned on the scarlet blade, stood on the sea monster that was even convulsing because of pain, and asked with a smile at the two elves in front of him, "What if I don't? What will you do?" The sea elves will always remember this offense, and you will be punished by the sea. Punishment. It's terrible. Standing on the dying body of the sea monster, Ulfric pulled out the bloody long sword. Looking at the two elves riding on the magic-covered boat in the fog, he showed a simple smile on his bloody face. "But what makes you think you can go back alive to report the news? You in front of the power given by Leon. Distance is meaningless." A blue light flashed, and Ulfric instantly came behind the two elves, and slashed them with his sword. The huge red light condensed into a sharp blade, which tore all the defensive runes on the two elves in the blink of an eye, and instantly cut the two sea guards in half. "Wouldn't it be fine if you all died here?" Ulfric sneered and cut off the heads of the elves that were cut in half. A perfect surprise killing. No one survived. The weapon blessed by the blood god emitted a blazing red light, and the siren that was wailing under Ulfric's curse and power also exploded in an instant in the shocked eyes of all the Norscans. Countless blood and power were like siphons, pouring into Ulfric's body along the red light, adding a conspicuous behemoth brand to the countless brands on his body. This is Ulfric's own achievement, and no one can take it away. That's more like it. Only at this time did Ulfric feel that he was really doing something for the source of his power. Seeing Ulfric stepping on the elf's boat and taking a breath of satisfaction, the chief's daughter suddenly stood up and shouted to the back, "This is the legend of our Norska. Long live Ulfric, the great beast hunter. Long live Ulfric, long live, long live." Hint: your servant Ulfric killed the beast in the Siren Sea, Trano. Now the Norscan migration can provide you with population at a higher rate. Hint: because of killing the sea elf's beast and the beast servant, the sea elves have resentment towards your servants and your forces. Hint: the sea elves' favorability towards your faction is hatred. Leon, who was far away in the landing place and was manipulating magic to change the environment, looked at the prompts that popped up on his system, and a series of question marks flashed across his head. What the hell are sea elves? Elves living in the sea? I haven't heard of such a strange species from the players. Ulfric, what happened to you? Huh? Ulfric, who was still immersed in the cheers, suddenly became alert and almost knelt down. But he immediately realized that Leon was not here to blame, and hurriedly whispered, "A sea monster is eating your migrating people." A group of pointy-eared guys said he would eat thousands of them. And because I injured it, the monster had to eat all the Norse ships this month to atone for its sins. I chopped it to death. Well done. Leon responded without hesitation. What about those pointy-ears? Chop them all off. They are tired of blocking the happiness of my people. Yeah, okay, my lord. In fact, I have done it. Very good. I will do it this way in the future. Sea elves? It's nothing. Looking at the numbers, it seems that he is not lying. Leon quickly wrote down this detail and put it aside. After all, the number of big shots he had offended was already in the double digits. The Chaos Four Gods, some affected Norse tribes, and the Bretonnian chivalrous expeditionary force, and the sudden appearance of a sea elf from nowhere were quite normal. He also had important things to do. For example, the advancement of technology. For example, planning the farmland and crops of the God-given plains. For example, trying to repair the wonders of the land of descent. For example, modifying the wind of magic. Chapter 45. For time, although the research of science and technology is still progressing, it has fallen into a short-term stagnation. This is an objective fact. Although the system has alleviated more than 99.9999% of the troubles, the last little bit still needs to be faced. If the knowledge accumulation of human civilization was in the primitive era, I am afraid that the total amount can be fully remembered by just one person's brain. In the classical era, a whole library and team were needed. By the Middle Ages, people needed a whole city to develop a civilization structure. In the industrialized era, even if everyone has knowledge far beyond the primitive era, people still need a country to support it. In layman's terms, the scientific research points are seriously insufficient because the number of projects will expand exponentially in the next era. Because in subsequent research, it is not just a matter of simple scientific research points, but more industrial chains are needed to extend more technology. For example, the dozens of machines, hundreds of catalysts, thousands of raw materials and tens of thousands of different ratio functions and requirements required for an entire chemical industry chain are not all that can be irrigated by pure scientific research points. In other words, he could pour it in, but with the current level of technology points, it would be a bit too difficult to research an entire industrial chain with the power of 2,000 people. The result of the overall progress of the era is like what is now presented to Liang. Your cross-era technology has completed 0.83% of the industrialization process of all industries, and you still need 9,991,700 technology points. Your people working in the factory will automatically increase the research points and reduce the required research points. This technology has surpassed the era of the current planet, and the research penalty is 800%. This technology is blocked by the God of Wisdom, and the research penalty is 1200%. Each factory can provide 40% industrialization research rewards. Your current number of basic factories is 0 if it is a normal civilization. This requirement is not strict. After all, a normal civilization has hundreds of thousands to millions of people. 10 or 20 people can build a small factory. If there's a system, it can be knocked out on the spot after a period of time to enter the industrial age. But the problem is that Liang's landing place is not a normal civilization. The total population of the Land of Advent is only a few thousand people, among which a considerable number of knights are still stationed at the Giant Tree Outpost. The Rotten Life Giant Tree there is still being modified by Leon, gradually improving it to an aesthetic that humans can accept. The rest of the population has basically been filled up in the magic areas and repair buildings in various places, and there is no spare population to build factories. The most important thing is that according to the current progress, Building factories is just a drop in the bucket. If you want to completely complete all of the items of industrialization, even if you go all out, it will take a year to start. So why don't I wait for the chivalrous expedition to send people over? So Leon naturally turned his attention to the other part, magic. This completely new progress bar. Only the scientific research progress that can be supported by magic is running fast. Through the introduction to magic research, Leon has successfully transformed the rotten life essence into the breath of life, and added it to the range of normal manipulation and transformation together with other paths. Anyone who uses these powers will no longer be affected by corruption in matter, and using these powers will directly mobilize their essence. In other words, it is to break away from the interference of the current planet, start to form its own faction, and use a new magic calculation formula to guide the power. Of course, the good news in magic is more than that. Modifying the wind of magic is an unexpected surprise, which essentially comes from Leon's own talent. What is said here is not the talent given by the system and wonders, but Leon's real, innate talent. He seems to have an unimaginable ability to manipulate magic and psychic energy. His research has already produced preliminary results, and now he can even change the corruption temple into a similar product such as the life temple. The wind of magic disassembled by Leon does not have a detailed path and concept yet, but it is a good start. The preliminary disassembly of the magic of emotional transformation, the essence of the transformation of life magic, and the research on the wind of magic and his own magic have made Leon a terrifying wizard. Even more fortunately, in terms of magic, even the so-called supreme wisdom is not needed. Leon is also an absolute genius across the ages. He can even make the chaotic magic surrender outside the range of Stonehenge, remove the parts that are uncomfortable for humans separately, and even give the magic itself a beautiful mod to make it more suitable for people to use. These are all his own ideas, and they are also the technologies recognized by the system. Although there is no way to transform them into immediate combat power, they can also make all humans feel comfortable, even ecstatic. They believe that it was Leon who purified these rotten monsters. This was a little unexpected for him, but it was also a good thing. Leon never intended to stop, and he was thinking about more things: magic forging technology and magic element purification. I don't know if there is enough time. Let's first purify the vitality element. Otherwise the giant tree outpost may collapse. There is too little time and too few people. Floating in the zero-gravity observatory, Leon's consciousness patrolled the territory at high speed. But at this moment, he suddenly heard an ominous sound coming from inside his body. Looking at the broken and cracked palm and finger bones, revealing the magic energy flowing inside, Leon frowned. His body was about to collapse. To be precise, if his life continued, it would come to an end. But there are still many things to do, and many plans have not been completed. The God-given plains needed 3 rivers for irrigation, and he could only manipulate magic to change them. The life giant tree barrier of the giant tree outpost was not completed, otherwise it would not be possible to expand it with peace of mind. Before the arrival of the chivalrous expedition, he still had a lot to do. There were only more than 2,000 serfs and ordinary knights. Even if they had geographical advantages, it would be difficult to resist the opponent without a permanent fortress, which might even reach tens of thousands of people. Counting the chivalrous expedition army, there might be more players. In this magical world, the pressure of logistics and population has been greatly reduced. In addition, the players have been summoned, and what Leon has to do is to race against time. The hatred of the elves is not yet his turn to pay attention. The clock is spinning. Just managing everything in the territory now has made Leon's body unable to support it. It should, or must be, to find a trustworthy and capable manager. If you don't give up your body, Ulfric is a good choice. He is not stupid, but illiterate. But ordinary humans are definitely not as good as his system in terms of resource management. So some resources are still needed for support. Go back to maintain the body first, and then cheat some player resources. I remember correctly, these players' choices have contributed to it. If we can open up the trade links, we may be able to get rid of the resources. But in the final analysis, the flesh is too fragile. If we don't want to have any problems with the transformation of life magic, it will be a long-term job, but maybe we can treat it as a scientific research project, and wait until human medicine finds out. Looking at his almost shriveled palms, Liang sighed and closed his eyes in the observatory. The consciousness dived, and then ascended. The darkness like a mother wrapped it up, and then sent it to an even colder time and space. Chapter 46 Trustworthy Players. Opening his eyes and looking at the unfamiliar ceiling, the first thing Leon felt was not nostalgia, but the fact that death was spreading in his body, devouring his remaining vitality. But, to be honest, for Leon, this state is already very familiar. The power of magic flows in his skinny body, anchoring the state of death itself inside the body, and then manipulating the magic in his body, like fiddling with a puppet, making his body stand up, and then stand up to devour the remaining energy bar. To be honest, the feeling of manipulating his body is not much different from manipulating his body when he is alive. For Leon, magic is not much different from his instinct. Mobilize magic power, promote the body's digestion, and then use the elements of life from the instinct of this creature to neutralize death. The simplest way to survive in a way that takes into account both science and magic is like this now. It's really convenient. It's a pity. It would be better if it were more convenient. Feeling the magic power overflowing in his body, Leon sighed from his dry vocal cords. It doesn't even require much water and substances. It's enough to just stay like this for a few days or weeks and then come back to replenish the elemental balance of the body. As for the brittleness of the body due to long-term immobility and the loss of elements, this is not within Leon's consideration. He already has magic. Why does he care so much about the fragile human body? Although he is gentle to his people and follows their ideas, Leon doesn't care much about his body. As long as he can maintain basic life and does not affect the next plan, it's fine. Too thin doesn't seem good. The quality itself can't be concealed. Looking at the skeleton in the mirror, only the pupils are shining with bright light. Leon touched his chin, and then began to urge the wind of life to accelerate the transformation of the food just now into flesh and blood. While waiting for the flesh and blood and bones to refill the elements and stuff the magic wind and magic elements leaking everywhere in the body back, Leon was not idle. He still remembered what he had to do, walked directly to the computer, restarted it, and logged into the player forum. The system prompt on the account was already a big red mark, because of the Norse customs and a brief map published by Leon, as well as a series of legends and related arguments about the Broken Land. Players have begun to tilt resources towards the chivalrous expedition. But Player Leon, please contact us after waking up. We will confirm your location and information and do our best to rescue you. Forum Operation Team, you've taken the bait. After taking a look at the communication methods and precautions in the appendix, he raised his eyebrows. Using the wind of life to soothe the wind of death in his body, Leon's body is still thin, but the concept of death has begun to leave him. The body began to swell gradually, and the damaged flesh that exposed the magic structure began to be repaired again. The elements of life were re-irrigated into the body, allowing Leon to gradually add color from the original terrifying lich-like character. Soon, he turned into a captive who looked a little thin and tired, full of Norse style. This is exactly what Leon wanted everyone to see, which will add a lot of persuasiveness to his words. The power of magic is so great. To be honest, Liang initially thought that when he came back, there would be a group of people surrounding his bed, staring at him, and then interrogating him. But he didn't expect that this group of people would be so obedient. Or is it that this other world is not actually taken seriously in the overall assessment, so no one is specifically following him? After all, for the people in this world, the world over there is certainly exciting, but what is important is life here. After confirming that there was no problem with his disguise through the mirror, Liang cleared his throat, and his voice became tired and a little hopeful. Then, he picked up the phone and dialed the number. The other party answered the call before the phone even rang for more than 1 second. Leon also pretended to be impatient and said loudly with a calm face, "I have returned to the real world. When can you pick me up? I have been waiting for a long time. Those Norse cans have begun to doubt. They will really kill me. That's why we can't save him. We must never rescue him from the Norscan Peninsula. The captain of the Emperor's Hammer cruiser, known as the luckiest player and one of the current representatives of the Players' Union, was knocking on the table in the conference room with a gloomy face, and whispered to the people around him. He is the only player we can contact at present who is in the deepest part of the Norscan Peninsula and can point out the surrounding landmarks in detail. Since the death of the Dragon Power, our understanding of the Norscan Peninsula is all piecemeal, and only he can really tell the detailed information in the area. Indeed, he is miserable and wants to come back, but we must ask him to provide more information. A Norscan warband that actually communicates with prisoners and is relatively friendly, even in the depths of the Hell Peaks we know. This is also a huge opportunity for us. The red-haired captain knocked on the table, looking at the players around him who were in deep thought, and gradually raised his voice to show the importance of his opinion. The most fortunate thing is that the boy named Leon happens to know Norse. In the past, our people who went there died faster than anyone else, just because they couldn't speak the language. But he knew. Isn't this a bridge given by God? And he is a trustworthy Norse player. He had no choice in that place. We can say that we will help him come back, but in fact we are trying to cheat him of his information and data. The humanistic conditions and geographical information he has are too important, far more important than the map we have. In fact, he must become our nailed to the Norse region. It is because the information he conveyed is confirmed by us that we are sitting here and planning to participate in the chivalrous expedition, right? Knocking on the table, the grumpy captain glared at a lady who had just proposed to save Leon. We are the responsibility of tens of thousands of players, so he must stay in the Norsca Peninsula to serve us. It should be an honor for this player to be our mouthpiece. As long as our chivalrous expedition is successful, we can conquer the Norsca Peninsula through the geographical information he provides. According to the description and records, the places occupied by the looters actually have great potential. Although they are powerful, they have no organization at all. Isn't this the opportunity we need? This world has long been overcrowded. We can only seize our land from the relatively weak Straubers, right? Take him over in reality and describe the area and related data. We just need to send people to conquer it. The red-haired captain was imposing and overwhelmed the voices in the conference room. Although he didn't speak, many players present nodded, and even some official figure standing in the back showed affirmative expressions to the captain. They thought so too. Although the identity of that Leon has not been confirmed, whether it is the post he published or the argument he issued, it is detailed and only locals can say it. In that case, why rescue him instead of continuing to use him to death? They just lacked relevant knowledge about the Norse Peninsula, and they would need to conquer the Norse tribe in the future. And now there happened to be a Norse tribe running around with this player captive. So isn't this a match made in heaven? Sacrificing the freedom of one player for the happiness of all players in the future. A very cost-effective deal. As for deception, no one present had thought of this. People live in the real world, and there is a different world for players over there. What's the point of deception? You have to live in this world after all. All the players took it for granted and didn't have any cautious thoughts about Liang's existence. They also took it for granted that there was no problem with their arrangements, and that was the authority from top to bottom. Then take him to the base and take care of him directly. It's a good time to comfort him and monitor the recorded data. The official looked at everyone in the conference room and naturally came to a conclusion. Naturally, no one objected to this judgment. Everything is under control. Just waiting for data. They thought so. Chapter 47, Despicable, but useful. This world attaches great importance to the development of other worlds. Liang sat in the car, looking at the high-rise buildings and the hustle and bustle outside the window, while building a spell model in his mind and thinking endlessly. After they confirmed that Liang had returned, they quickly sent someone to take Liang to a special player base for care. Of course, it depends on the perspective of the person. From the perspective of ordinary people, this is indeed care, but it is also a kind of imprisonment. But this is what Liang needs. In the special player base, there is a nutrient warehouse prepared for long-term infiltration. Moreover, in this separately controlled area, the possibility of being affected is greatly reduced, and at the same time, It can also get in touch with the most cutting-edge information and related designs of the players as quickly as possible. And, how to say it, it is a bit difficult to say, but in fact Liang has the ability to manipulate people's hearts. The Wind of Magic also has such a special technique that can affect the ability of those whose minds or ideas are not firm. So for Liang, this is a perfect choice. Don't worry, believe us. We are all companions who help each other in the other world. We will rescue you. The male driver looked at the listless Leon in the car mirror and comforted him. All the people in the player base who are related to the old world have been mobilized, and everyone is very enthusiastic about rescuing you. We also have many people going to the chivalrous expedition just to rescue you. This is a great thing. Look, it's all in the newspaper. What does Leon look like in the driver's eyes? Leon, who was sitting in the back and releasing the magic sentry to start recording the places along the way, didn't know this. He just released a little magic wind, and then fixed the result he wanted. And then the driver began to write a reasonable script in his mind. This kind of thing can be done by magic. However, the driver did not lie. According to the intelligence data that Leon has observed so far, it shows that the large-scale participation of players in the chivalrous expedition is not for the land of Norska and the so-called City of Hope. It is to help Leon escape from the Norska area, which is considered to be saving the soldier Leon. Many posts on the forum are discussing this matter. Some players disagree with this, thinking that this kind of thing is a waste of money and labor and is unnecessary. But more players said they felt warm, thinking that if players did this for a Norska player, then if something happened to everyone in the future, the players would save each other and believe that the upper level would have no problem at all. As for the so-called pioneering order brought by the chivalrous expedition, and things like the Norska Hope City, apart from the initial advocacy post and the centralized post, no one said anything. Only a group of players' union presidents silently invested money and people in the chivalrous expedition, and some people with union money and background began to move to the north of Kislev, as if they were planning to investigate first. It can only be said that this behavior of wanting both hands made Leon feel impressed, at least according to his brain. He would never think of such a lie. That's why it is said that every profession has its own specialty. We're here. Look, everyone is waiting for you at the door. After the time for placing the magic node passed, the driver drove to a large building in the suburbs and said with a smile. Leon nodded casually and walked out of the car naturally. The players in front of him, who were either dressed in suits or dressed in otherworldly clothes, all showed warm smiles and stretched out their hands to Leon. You are the player from Norska, right? Hello, I am Edward, the captain of the Emperor's Hammer cruiser. Don't worry, in my name, we will definitely rescue you from the Norska region. Nice to meet you, I am the president of the Old World Player Self-Help Association. You can call me Cole. Hello, I am Anderson, the official person in charge of this rescue operation. Don't worry, with us, you will go home. We need you to provide more geographical data and relevant information to confirm your location. Although we are currently unable to leave the chivalrous expedition, we will find your location soon. The player representatives enthusiastically showed their superb acting skills to the air. I don't know what it looks like in their eyes that both the host and the guests are happy. Glory illusion is the ability analyzed from the only chaotic magic that Leon has not officially touched, representing the path of literature and enjoyment. Just be casual when getting off the bus, and the people around will all fall into the illusion they desire, and then be guided to the result that Leon wants. Now Leon set up the scenario that they will get the geographical location they want, and believe that there will be some leather and tusks left by the Norsemen at the coordinates provided by Leon. This is a coordinate point left by Ulfric, and now it is just right to give it to the players as a proof. The second round of psychological suggestion nodes is to find some Norsemen left by Leon at the location of the Hell Mountains, and then establish a preliminary trade zone. Leon can't do anything more. After all, the human brain is still a relatively delicate structure, and being able to use suggestion to this extent is already the upper limit. If it goes against their core interests, such as their own death or damage to something they care about, this subtle mental illusion will disappear without a trace. But there are also benefits. As long as they are hit by this illusion, Their brains will eliminate some unreasonable places by themselves. Just like now, Leon has left, but they are still enthusiastically introducing themselves and trying to get words from Leon. The real Leon just walked up to a staff member. "Where is your data room?" "In the basement, and you need to verify yourself before you can enter, and there are cameras for monitoring." "Take me to the verified person." "Okay, please follow me." Wearing loose clothes, bypassing the noisy players, Leon came to the inside of the player base in a logical way, and then successfully controlled a white-haired old man, and went to the basement. For Leon's wind of magic, controlling the camera and forging a normal-looking recording screen is not a difficult task. He doesn't even need to think about his spell construction. Just thinking about it in his brain, the wind of magic will automatically create a suitable spell to help him achieve his current goal. Without wasting more time, Leon easily arrived at the place he wanted. Player core information archives. Whether it is the chivalrous expedition or other things, they are not as important as these materials. Looking at the internal networked computer in front of him and the dusty paper files around him, Leon squinted his eyes comfortably and began his journey of harvest. Chapter 48: The Existence and Return of Players. What a nice guy. Edward, who had finished the welcoming banquet, was walking on the way to the data room, thinking about the unlucky Norscan who looked quite interesting. After such a short period of communication, Edward actually felt sorry for the guy named Leon. He was actually only 17 years old. Just in his youth, he was the top student in school and had excellent theoretical scores. If nothing unexpected happened, this young man should have received strong support from the local player union and become a role model for players and a successful benchmark for the god-making movement on the forum. But fate played a joke on this young man, making him fall to Norska. If it weren't for his excellent skills in various languages and his hobby of even learning some Norscan by himself, I'm afraid Leon would have been killed by the looters as soon as he landed. But even now, Leon's situation is not safe. According to what was said at the banquet, Norska is full of mountain kings, and each of them has unique skills. There are many strong men who can tear monsters alive and hunt demons, and they have no moral concepts. To be honest, as a representative of the lucky players, Edward still feels sorry for this guy. Moreover, he speaks well and behaves obediently, which gives people a good feeling. But for the greater good, Edward still has no intention of letting him go. The chivalrous expedition and the Norse raiders are two-pronged for the current players. Only when the reputation of the chivalrous expedition is mixed in, the Norse conquest and the player's city-building plan can be launched. This is a move that the official has been planning for a long time. Even if the city cannot be built, a large-scale gathering place must be cleared for the players, because many of the current players have even gotten out of control. Everyone understands the current delicate situation of the official. After all, it is a different world. Although we still live in this world, who doesn't want to enjoy the pleasure and impulse brought by the different world? Who likes a life where everyone is restrained and constrained by the so-called guild? What's more, there are so many temptations in that world, and a person may encounter some adventures in the wild. There are endless events that can change one's life or even completely reverse it. If this chivalrous expedition fails, I am afraid that the public opinion and related policies of the entire player system will be forced to relax. Otherwise, this kind of semi-compulsory collection and so-called major events have long made people tired. Even Edward himself is extremely dissatisfied and disgusted with this kind of thing. He is the owner of a cruiser, wandering around on the sea. Isn't it good to be a man like the wind? Why must he go to the Arctic to fight with a great wizard who has no idea what's going on but looks very scary? If it weren't for the fact that the official gave so many things in reality, he would never have participated in this kind of action. By the way, go to the data room to check the map first, and see if there are any small landing points around that place. At that time, cooperate with the main force to make a penetration. Edward patted his head while walking on the road and walked towards the underground database. As the top player and an official recruit, Edward's configurations are naturally top-notch. With his authority, he can move freely inside the base. But when he came to the deepest part of the underground to investigate the information about the Chaos Sea and the Chaos Wasteland, Edward keenly felt that something was wrong. As the captain of a cruiser, he still has some perception of the environment. In other words, as a believer of the local ocean god, and even an individual who is observed and blessed by certain beings, Edward's perception is very high. Leaving the noisy banquet environment and returning to the confined space similar to the captain's room and cabin, this player who won everyone's respect with his superb swordsmanship on the ship squinted his eyes and looked around in the underground database. Then he saw it. Or rather, the senses that were instinctively ignored were inexplicably concentrated. He saw a figure. When did it start? Or did I drink too much and have hallucinations? Looking at Liang sitting in front of the computer to check the information, Edward's head was turbid. Leon, why are you here? Shouldn't you go back to the dormitory and deal with those Norse cans in the nutrient tank? How do you have the authority? Leon answered. In Edward's sight, Leon's figure seemed to be divided into several parts. One part was respectfully answering that because of his specialness, he asked for someone's help to check the information of Norscan. The other part didn't take him seriously at all, just looking up the information on their own. Edward shook his head, trying to sober himself up, but the more he did so, the more he felt that the world in front of him was blurry and turbid. The respectful Leon seemed fake, while the Leon who stood up coldly after checking the information and looked at him as if he was a mutant white mouse became real. You drank too much, Leon suddenly said. An irresistible will shattered the protection on Edward. The player who was struggling to say something suddenly became confused, and then staggered to one side, ignoring Leon next to him. A sharp protection that works specifically in secret rooms and narrow environments. What a mess. The gods and so-called strong men over there seem to be a bit stingy. After taking a look at the confused Edward, Leon memorized the last bit of information in front of him. There are plans for the chivalrous expedition, the player's planning and site selection for Hope City, and the choice of Leon and the information about cities and populations around the old world, which have greatly enriched Leon's current database. He chose to leave with satisfaction. After charming a staff member casually, Leon found his dormitory naturally. The specially customized ecological recuperation chamber can protect Leon's body to the greatest extent. Lying in the coffin-like structure, feeling the injection of nutrient solution around him, Leon slowly closed his eyes. The darkness enveloped him again, and his consciousness began to withdraw. But before leaving, some questions flashed through Leon's mind. Speaking of which, how can players reach another world? Is it a pure cosmic phenomenon, or is there some kind of inevitability in this way similar to a spectacle? However, this confusion did not last long, and soon turned into fragmented starlight and dissipated in the teleported consciousness. When he opened his eyes again, he saw the familiar galaxy. Your magic research, magic liquefaction has been completed. He returned to his familiar place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Chivalrous Expedition Deployment Map. Liang's actions in the player world are not meaningless, and Liang never does anything meaningless. In addition to various group data about the old world, the most meaningful thing Liang got has been memorized in his mind. That is all the information about the next major event, the offensive plan deployment map of the chivalrous expedition. Obviously, this is something that has been finalized, because according to the player's material mobilization and the changes in the magic wind observed by Liang, it has been proved that they will definitely attack according to this route. Now it is time to shoot the arrow on the string. There is no time to mobilize, whether it is modification or rearrangement. Even the first batch has begun to receive training and is ready to board the ship, so the information in Liang's hands is very important. The entire chivalrous expedition is divided into 3 offensive routes. The duration of the overall campaign is set at about 3 months. One island, the main offensive route for players to attack the broken land through the port in the direction of Kislev along the Norska Peninsula. The attack time of this route is the earliest, and now there are player fleets setting off one after another. But it is obvious that they have never thought of landing in the Broken Land as the forerunner of the king. They are currently relying on the information given by Leon to provide intelligence personnel in Britannia with intelligence that has been completely tampered with by Leon. The main demand of players on this route is not to reach the Broken Land and fight with Leon, but to set up trading stations along the Norscan Peninsula and gain the trust of local Norscans based on Leon's intelligence information. This route basically does not need to be taken care of. The direction can be determined by using some outposts arranged by Leon around the Chaos Sea. One island, the route of the Bretonnian knights who attack the North Chaos Sea from Goruni through the outside of Obi Island. This is the main core attack point. These people have learned from the failure of the last chivalrous expedition. They are called upon to fight against the Green Tide. After the failure, they have psychological problems and are extremely eager for revenge and achievements. They will appear in the Broken Land as the main force and core attack point. There is no need to think about how many people can surrender. They are all fanatics, and they can come back alive after the failure of the fight against the Green Tide. At the same time, they have not been punished, which proves that their identities are definitely not ordinary people. Such a special identity destined them not to betray Britannia and vowed to bring back the Holy Grail. But at the same time, because of their beliefs and doctrines, they will not merge with other offensive routes, but have different routes. The last route also departs from the port of Goruni. They are a group of mysterious mercenaries, believers, and strange spellcasters. In theory, these people have the highest combat effectiveness, but in the eyes of Britannia, these people are not honest enough and not trustworthy enough. Although the supervisor Knight Joshua hopes to be together, the Bretonnian knights finally refused, leaving them alone as an offensive route. And because the environment and manpower are not too stable, they plan to take the reef shortcut between Obi Island and the Norska Strait, and start a joint offensive route after joining the main force of the players. Even if the players do not arrive, they will continue to advance after receiving the signal from the Bretonnian forward outpost. Depending on the different routes and choices, the first to arrive should be the Knights of Britannia. They are expected to land on the north bank of the Broken Land, and build watchtowers and frontier positions on the spot, waiting for the arrival of follow-up troops. The players followed up with the subsequent aid supplies in a piecemeal manner, and harassed Leon's Broken Land on the coastline to interfere with Leon's strategic judgment. The mercenary magician interfered with the magic wind, making it impossible for the magician to judge the surrounding environment, and Leon could not accurately judge the attack location. The plan was strictly sealed by the top leaders with the Oath of the Soul, and the bottom leaders could only execute it without knowing the plan. In addition, there were two artifacts along the way to assist in interference. One of them was the illusory mirror, which allowed the magic wind to continuously and actively diffract within the range, and could make exploration-type magic useless in a large area. The other was the figurehead of the goddess of the sea, which was arranged in the fleet of the Bretonnian knights. Sacrificing an intelligent creature every day can ensure that the route will never deviate and that the ocean waves will not submerge the ship. The fastest speed of the combination of the two can even allow the Bretonnian fleet to circle the edge of the Broken Land from the farther and more windy Obi Island in 4 days, and establish Bretonnian's forward position in the friendly survival zone forged by the Stone Circle. How to say it? A very good offensive plan. At least Leon really didn't have any problems at first glance. The subsequent plans, as well as a series of adjustments and plans, were all at an outstanding level. Except for 2 points they made mistakes. First, the area within the Stonehenge was Leon's territory, and this environment was not naturally generated. His eyes had already begun to look at the entire Broken Land as the swamps and forests expanded. Secondly, they did not realize that Leon was a player. Players can find these things. If this thing was not placed in front of Leon, they had no idea that Leon was also a player. If they were just ordinary residents of the other world, they might really have a big meal. But since they knew, it would be impossible to let this happen. According to the information, the fleet of the chivalrous expedition will curve around the purified sea with good sight from the South Chaos Sea, Find a beachhead from the cliff direction and start deploying forward positions. This is no problem. Leon has already begun to choose which cliff can be slightly destroyed and modified to give these knights a beachhead of their own choice. They are on a mission, and it is impossible for them to attack along the coastline in a swaggering manner. Building a beachhead on the edge is enough, and what they have to do next is to keep sending signals and start moving forward along the route given by Leon. There are a total of 45,000 soldiers in this chivalrous expedition. The subsequent baggage supply fleet provides not only some living and military food, but also repairs in the military blacksmith shop and even some magic repair troops. These are what Leon hopes to get. His territory has been barren for too long, and he longs for a whole army to fill it. Of course, for safety reasons, Leon did not really ignore other coastlines and defense systems. So Leon decided to build a super large fortress on the edge of the Bretonnian Knights beachhead that can monitor the Chaos Sea and Chaos Wasteland, as well as the Bretonnian Knights' positions at the same time. And as the magic liquefaction began, a wonder came into Leon's sight. "Are you building a fairy fortress, Alhambra Palace magic?" Chapter 50, Wonderful Fairy Fortress. Man-made wonder. Fairy fortress technology required for construction. Wind of magic manipulation. Fairy world cognition or similar technology. Architecture. Mathematics. Mana liquidation. Path of wisdom or similar technology. Construction requirements. 4,000 mana. Cliffs or mountains in the war element area. 1,000 mana offerings. 12,000 soul fragments. Fairy fortress is a building that could not have been built. The fairies living in the deep woods near Castano have no concept of fortresses. These naturally born spirits manipulate the fate of humans with their own likes and dislikes, gnaw on human babies, and laugh at the suffering and destruction of human families. These monsters have no conscience, knowledge or system. The difference between them and demons is that they do not have some masters, which makes the actions of the fairies more terrifying and unpredictable. However, there is indeed a group of fairies who came up with the idea of this fortress for fun. After all, a fortress hidden in the fairy world. Let humans build it, and as soon as it is built, it will crush those humans. How fun does that sound? Wonder effect. The fairy fortress will be stationed with a non-intelligent warp army, which is regarded as a mixed supernatural army of 12,000 people. It has 200 fairy artillery pieces. It cannot leave the fortress, cannot be dispersed, has no morale, is not affected by physical effects, and magic effects are halved. The defense capability of its location is equivalent to that of the top-level masonry fortress Star Fortress, and it has 50% magic resistance, as well as the characteristics of permanent invisibility and hiding in the fairy world. The civilization that owns this wonder will get a derivative action. Explore the fairy world. Very pure, so pure that there is no other value at all. This is the first pure wonder that Leon has, with almost nothing else. Its effect is to build an invisible super fortress on the spot, with a whole supernatural ghost army inside, and the strategic purpose is to get stuck there so that people can never get over. It can be seen that the fairies near Castano are indeed a group of wicked and smoking beasts, and the logic of their construction of wonders is to disgust other races. Fortunately, this wicked wonder was not actually built by the fairies. Instead, Leon was able to plunder wisdom from the void and take it in his own hands. Moreover, the construction of this building is actually very simple and convenient. As for the magic sacrifice, in fact, things like manta rays in the sea can be used as substitutes. These creatures are the embodiment of twisted creatures. Let's just count them as human heads. And the soul fragments can be made up with the demons. Let the stone circle tear it down slowly, or let the knights at the giant tree outpost throw the demons over. The giant tree of life that was modified by Leon, although it still has circulating vitality inside, looks righteous on the outside. Many knights of Bretonnia began to doubt whether they were already the legendary Green Knights, but Leon thought they were overthinking. They were green because of the vitality, and were their legendary Green Knights also filled with vitality? Finally, it was to verify the construction method of the wonder. After closing his eyes and sensing the construction process of the fairy fortress, as well as the magic structure and the way to open the fairy gate, Leon couldn't help but sigh from the bottom of his heart. What a bunch of living beasts. None of these technologies and runes have anything to do with humans. The runes and marks that emerged in his mind are all linked to the suffering of mankind. This fairy technology makes Leon's idea of cleaning up this world clearer. If one day he can really show his power from the broken land, Leon will definitely kill all these subspace creatures, because these things, whether they are kind or ugly, are all spirits, beasts without human intelligence. Their kindness will lead to the most tragic tragedy, and their jokes will lead to the eternal anger of a family. Dead subspace creatures are good creatures. Feeling the runes of the fairy world transmitted by the fairy fortress, Leon thought about it and decided to make some modifications to the wonders and rituals to better operate the magic. Once again, magic is a research and development system independent of science and technology. To be precise, it is not independent, and can also be developed with scientific research points. But in comparison, Leon still prefers to use huge magic power to force it in for development, because in this way, Leon can feel the past and future of a wonder from head to toe like now, and accurately control every detail of the construction of these wonders, feel the malice of those aliens and ethnic groups towards other races, and then extinguish the remaining kindness of oneself. This is not a building that humans or ordinary intelligent creatures can construct, but Leon is different. He can see it. The ritual lies engraved with the concept of hurting the world. It is the original ritual of all intelligent creatures, a ritual to pray for self-destruction and the destruction of others. Whether it is a fairy, a demon, or something in the subspace, even the magic wind flowing in the sky, and some aggregates laughing wildly behind the magic wind, he can see it. So naturally, Leon can build this kind of fortress that overlaps between fantasy and reality and is almost impossible for humans to recognize and build. In layman's terms, to build this special wonder building, the leader or the local population needs to have dimensional cognition and related similar elements and abilities to build it. And it just so happens that Leon has this ability both as a leader and in benefiting his people. You have modified the Wonder Fairy Fortress. The fairy portal inside the fairy fortress has been cancelled. Now, a rebirth pool has appeared inside the fairy fortress, which is regarded as a life element area. All dead supernatural troops can be revived in the rebirth pool at the cost of 1 magic power. The daily resurrection limit is 12,000 people. The name of the fairy fortress has been changed to Leon's Heavenly Fortress. How can this name look unlucky? Looking at the name given by the system, Leon raised his eyebrows, floated happily in the observatory for a while, and then called out the name of his chief supervisor. Ulfric. Oh no, Oliver, are you still there? I am, my master. A green, vibrant shadow humbly walked out from the corner and bowed his head. What do you want? Prepare to take people to build the fairy fortress. We will give your stubborn compatriots a surprise. Yes, master. The knight, who was emitting green light of vitality, responded softly. Then he looked at the floating Leon and was silent for a moment, and asked a question in some confusion. But master, can't you give orders in our minds? Why this time? I hope there is a sense of ceremony, at least to make me look like a normal leader. Of course, the most important thing is that this is actually your idea. Glancing at Oliver with an embarrassed face, Leon floated in the observatory and said, Don't think I don't know what you say about me behind my back. A skeleton lich who plays witchcraft. A collective hallucination? Well, since direct orders make you feel at ease, then I will give direct orders. Are you satisfied now? Sure will, my lord. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.